We're into 2 months of a team,
That's
and you're
nothing.
expecting him to already be lifting a trophy. None of you have ever played Counter-Strike before at a professional level. What the fuck are you talking about? It doesn't work like that. Like, you can't just make a change every time because something doesn't work.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets, guaranteed.
Bomb has been planted.
Hey buddy, let me show you how to fix that. Bitskins.com. Buy and sell skins instantly. Deposit and withdraw funds instantly with crypto or directly to your Visa card. Woohoo! Bitskins.com, the best skin marketplace.
Bet. Your bet. Your game.
Welcome to HLTV Confirmed, another episode, another week, but this is not a normal week. We've just finished the RMRs and qualified the 24 teams for the major. But before we get into that chit-chat, let me quickly thank the sponsors Xtrfy, Bitskins, and of course, N1Bet. Gamble responsibly. Thank you again for consistently supporting the show. And thank you for everybody tuning in live as we're here on Twitch. I want to introduce, we've got a bunch of panelists here this evening. No hot seat. First, we've got the return of Prof. It's not as good as the return of A-Core, but Prof, thank you for gracing us with your presence once again.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be here on this awesome show, which I kind of produce and run. I mean, not produce, but pick people. So it's great. It's a great honor to invite myself on.
It's great that you made the way to Rio immediately after the conclusion of the event. I can't believe how quick you got there.
I am there on the ground. Or in the sky, actually.
What a seat! What a seat!
I'm in the sky, just overseeing what's going on, who's gonna be doing well on the grounds here in Brazil, and yeah, I'll be providing some awesome insight this evening. I feel.
Any traffic reports?
Yeah, there's some congestion on D14 towards the Copacabana beach. It's really warm. It's amazing, beautiful people outside. So a lot of people want to get that vitamin D in. As we all know, it's amazing. All of the vitamin D you should get practically. Ask Anders, he tweeted about it. So yeah, it's a bit of a traffic there, but I feel like it's worth it. You know, get some patience, some nice music, sunscreen, and head towards the nearest beach.
All right, shout out to the guys who spent 6 weeks in Katowice while the rest of us were in Malta getting the vitamin D.
Oh, Jesus
hello to them.
Christ.
Striker, you're obviously here again, and you're looking quite vitamin D'd up. Were you outside in the last week?
Actually, very little in the last week, but I was in Crete the week before that when I was away. So that's where it comes from.
That's where the vitamin D comes from.
Yeah.
All right. And a resident comedian and someone who doesn't get a whole lot of vitamin D, also major winner himself, Devilwalk, here to play and here with a lot to say. How you doing, mate? Thank you for joining us this evening. I saw you were doing some streaming with Banks. You were watching some of the games. You were getting up to all the good stuff.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it's always like a little bit more. It's hard to follow RMRs if you don't like commit yourself into like a stream or someone to chat with, because there's just so much CS going on during the RMRs. It's even hard to keep track of what I've seen in my mind so far.
And I think we'll do our best tonight to discuss everything we have seen. So I suppose tonight, for everybody watching, it's going to be a bit more free-flowing. It'll probably be a bit more all over the place, right? Because there's so much to digest. But I wouldn't mind kind of doing a reverse order to get some of this housekeeping done and dusted immediately. So let's start with the Asian RMR, which I don't know how many people would have been able to watch the games just purely because of the timing. So we can quickly get through this. But it was going down in Melbourne at PAX, and there was 4 teams. We've discussed this multiple times. We'd love some more. But there was 2 positions available, and IHC and Greyhound took those. The most surprising, I suppose, here is the fact that Rare Adam came in last place, losing to Gigi Hao. I still don't know if I'm saying that correctly. It could be pronounced any way at all. It's like a Chinese organization name with the Middle Eastern team, but 3 of them are from Israel and 2 of them are from Russia. Davcost and Facecrack, so names that everybody should know and love at home. So I don't know how much we have to really dig into this, other than the fact that IHC qualify again, and so do Greyhound, well, under a new name, which probably means a lot for them now that they don't have a home or an organization, right? So does anybody have anything they want to say about this? Did anybody catch any of their games? I was waking up early to watch the Aussies play, but I didn't get up at 5 a.m. That would have been nuts.
I didn't catch any of the games, but I've had an opinion. When I saw the name GG International, it kind of looked like a troll mix, kind of ignorant name, you know, in like a FaZe game or something, and a surprising lineup as well. I'm not really sure how they got into that Asian minor. How does it work exactly?
They went to the Middle East.
Yeah,
okay.
3 Israeli players and then +2 from wherever, more or less.
Okay.
I think in that Middle Eastern qualifier, you usually see like 3+2. There's like some of these like tier 3 or tier 4 European players. Yeah, we saw the mix a couple of years ago for the Star Ladder minor that had. It was like Black Eagle and then some of the FPL guys as well. So it's kind of a similar combination that comes up here, and it's so surreal to see these combinations. But it's I guess it works out. You just import what you can and play by the rules that are given to you to have a better chances of winning. Unfortunately for them, Greyhound IC is still better, but at least they got a trip to Australia, so that was nice.
It's more surprising about Rare Adam, though, right?
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I think when I was discussing them last time on the show, I was like, yeah, look, we want to see these guys. They top Tyloo now. They missed out on a couple of opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. The newer breed of the Chinese player, right? Not Tyloo continuously rehashing the same players. And it's a bit unfortunate that they bomb out in this fashion. But there was some rounds, especially in that series that they played against Greyhound. I'm watching it. I'm going, Jesus, they're okay. I've been there before, like seeing Advent lose some like unlosable clutch situations. I was like, oh dear, that's a feeling that it's sinking in now, like the pressure of that moment and everything. But yeah, it went successfully for what it was.
I just saw Advent's rating 0.59 against the GG Hao international squad. That's a yikes for me, dog.
Okay, yeah, that's. Yeah, bit of a yikes. Okay, well, that's the Asian RMR done. So there we go. We managed to do that in the first 10 minutes of the show. We've done a whole segment.
We got past 2 out of 24 teams. Let's go.
So one fourth of the RMRs.
4 out of 52. We should
25%.
Okay.
Well, if this was like a PR from like any big TO, this would be we're done with 25% of all the things that we need to do in 10 minutes. We are amazing.
Yeah, and we'd be hitting those KPIs. But let's talk about the week as a whole, I suppose, because as you mentioned, Devil, what we're talking about, so much to keep up with. You got to dive completely into it, and even then, it's still difficult because at some points they were going up to like F in the streams. It was like twitch.tv/ESL.
Like channels I haven't seen before.
F. I was like, what is F? Right? So it went very deep.
We all know what it stands for.
You'll get fucked. But the one with D was great. It was CS God. I like that one.
I always thought of it as CS God. Like you know, hitbox.
You can go both ways there.
Like hopefully we all do. But I think the key with this here is this entire week it's been condensed down. If we reflect to what happened with the PGL RMRs, for example, it was over the span of 2 weeks, mainly because of the European side, right? I think they broke them up. This way, everybody's on even playing field. Everybody finished at the same time, roughly. So everybody should have the same lead time into the event. Do you guys think that played a factor into why they've compounded these events and put the 2 16-team European RMRs on top of each other? I think it was good. I think it was great. I enjoyed the fact there was so much going on. Someone on Reddit compared it to March Madness, which I believe is like American football,
NBA,
basketball.
Not NBA, but like college basketball, I think.
Yeah, and
maybe not. Who knows?
But they talk about that with just constant games going on. I kind of liked it. It's too hard to keep up, but I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to keep up. I mean, from my perspective, it wasn't so much fun because, having to keep track of all basically like 24/7 CS is fucking impossible from a news standpoint. Like we had, I think I don't have this backed up by any stats, but I'm like relatively sure this has been the most busiest weeks in terms of news in HLTV.org in history, like ever. I think I don't think we've ever posted, like we posted something like 100 news over the course of the week, like something crazy like that, which
Oh
is
wow.
very, very high for our standards. We are fairly active when whatever is happening, right? But this is major qualifiers, so this was just fairly crazy from my standpoint. I mean, as to why we've seen Valve kind of like try to condense the majors before. Obviously, at some point it was 3 weeks, now it's 2 weeks, and they've condensed those. Like we're playing 2 rounds at the same time at the beginning of the major, and or like in the same day, instead of having like 5 days for every stage or whatever it was, and it was like 3 days in between as well, and that's why it took up 3 weeks in the past. And I would imagine this is a similar reason, where they don't want to take up so much of the calendar just because of qualifiers for the major. The major itself already takes up quite a bit, and then with 2 more weeks of qualifiers on top of that, and previously I think was even more. And with all the lead time in terms of open qualifiers and all of that, like a major cycle really takes a long time to get through. So I understand that point of view, where this is not supposed to be like the main event. This is supposed to be only the qualifiers, and so it doesn't matter so much that you don't get to watch all of it at all times.
But it's unique, right? So this is the difference. When we do go into the major, sure, we're going to have multiple streams on there for some matches, right? But this is the thing, Devilwalk. You look at this week and taking into consideration what Striker just said, like this is different from the main event. It was still pretty fucking hype, right? Now it feels like there's some bells and whistles around this. You have so many streams going, so much happening. Like it feels like its own unique thing. We don't have anything else we can compare that to in the calendar, right?
I think maybe even making it like kind of packed up made it a little bit more of an interesting tournament than in the past. Like because you get constant updates through matches. There's drama all the time. You never get that kind of break where you have to jump back into it. But something I also liked is that I think previously sometimes you would have like 2 games a day, 3 games a day, depending on what happened in the matches. So I like that they kind of had 1 game per day, so that everyone has a fair chance to maybe go a little bit more detailed in the prep. Because like if you
Instead
go to an RMR, you have like, okay, we have 16 teams in our group. I have to prep for every single team, but you're only going to be playing a maximum of 5 of those teams, right? In the worst case scenario. And I feel like a lot of the time the prep becomes very general when you don't know your opponent. You don't want to spend. It's more about allocating time, and doing the right things going into a tournament. And then when you get it every day, you at least get the chance to deep dive into some anti-strats and the details that you need to fix with knowing your opponent, compared to in the past when it was like 15-minute break, you're playing this guy, and you barely had any time at all to prep.
Yeah, I think for me, I agree with what you said, but the drawback for me is like there are some, as you said, it's hype, and the games are so important, and they're like career-defining, historic games in some way, and they're all condensed and overlapping. That you don't get to enjoy them as much as you could if there was like if it was like it was last time with like 2 weeks overall, and every RMR is going like individually. Because when you look at what we had in this season so far, just like the Blast group stage was 2 weeks. So Blast group stage is 2 weeks, major qualifier is 1 week, right? And then you have Pro League 4 weeks of group stages. The quality and the just fun of watching the games is much higher for the RMR. So that's why I'm kind of sad that they don't get more time or breathing room, so we can like get it all in and kind of take in all of the storylines, because some of them were glossed over and didn't really get that much attention. Like I think I was watching like Liquid EG or something like that. That kind of a game, and had like 15K viewers on the mainstream, because at the same time there were like 2 European games happening, which were also like high, like pretty big names playing. So from that perspective, I'm kind of sad, but I understand that like the schedule is what it is. So condensing it, and also what you said, Chad, about everyone having kind of the same prep time more or less, that also comes into play a bit, makes it a bit more fair for everyone.
Now, and on that, I'm not 100%. Like, this is the thing. Like, I hear a lot of things, and I don't know which was I told by somebody as like a point of authority, or I was told by somebody who was like, oh, this is what I think I heard, right?
Yeah.
But I know that it came past my desk at one point that this was a query from the teams of, hey, can we all do this at the same time? Because like I think that factor is a big one.
Oh.
If you win, if we still had a whole nother week, if we had another, like we just finished, and now we're going into week 7 of like from Pro League into RMR into next RMR, and then at the end of that, then the next teams who qualify only have 14 days of prep time, and the other teams had an extra whole week on top of that. It's like, okay, well, you know, some of them use it as an advantage. Some of them think it's a bit of a disadvantage to not be going right. It's all over the place in that regard there. But I like this. I think it was fun. I think there's always like, for example, if we had it like it was when we did it online in the Road to Rio, when it was like the back in fucking early 2020, it was like the 24-hour Counter-Strike network, if you guys remember then, because everywhere was in their own region. So we do Europe, you know, then Europe would end, we'd go into North America. North America would end, we'd go into fucking, oh, maybe South America was in there somewhere, and then South America would finish, and then Asia would start, and then I'd wake up in the morning, and we'd start getting ready to go into work to start Europe, and Asia and Australia were just wrapping up. And it was literally for like the longest time, like we were calling the 24/7 Counter-Strike network. Like that's what was the joke we had for it on broadcast, because it wouldn't stop. So if
Just fuck the night shift, man. This is just like all day shift.
Yeah, that's what it was. Like that's what it, but obviously it was just different points of broadcast, right? So there was different teams handling different bits and bobs. But let's say, for example, Blast do it and they actually have the America's RMR in America, which I know was a critique on ESL this time round for not pulling that off. Then maybe they find themselves in that same thing, right? That cycle that we were just discussing. So that could always be possible.
I mean, at that point, it would also not be as big of a problem that we play everything at the same time, because obviously, you know, this is 3 different regions completely separate from each other, where you have Asia, where you have Europe, and then you have Americas, right? Like if this was 3 different continents, then we don't have that 10-hour, or we have basically like 8 more hours in the night, you know, where the Americas plays or something like that, where it would be much easier, you know, for everything to kind of fit together and not have so many overlapping matches. And, you know, obviously that makes things tougher for Europe not to watch Americas, but at the same time, you know, it gives Americas a better chance to watch their own region. So like all of this together, it definitely was would have been better if it was 3 different continents rather than, you know, so much 48 teams in Europe playing at the same time.
Well, I still think overall, if we just take a step back, other than the fact that, say, for the European side, it was kind of just Pro League ending and then the next event starting in the same setup, the same green screen for the desk, just a different graphics package and some different music overall. So it probably felt very similar for the viewer in terms of what they were watching. That right there, I would say is that's an issue, but that's an issue hopefully we're on the path to solving. But in terms of the RMRs themselves, there weren't too many issues. There weren't too many hiccups, right? We obviously had the issue with NAVI and the whole Steam exploit situation going on, causing simple encoder lag, but we didn't have any of that stuff pop up. I did see ESA-Tag's monitor go off in an important match of Counter-Strike, which would have tilted me off the face of the fucking earth. I'm curious as to why that's happening. Part of me wants to think it's a power issue in Malta, because I do experience those myself.
Issues, so yeah, everyone else should have the same problem.
Mate, today I got woken up at 8 a.m., right? Because the bloke who owns the place, he lives above me, and he has the penthouse. And the penthouse, it has this massive balcony. It literally goes around the entire outside of the thing. I went downstairs today, going out for an appointment. There were 2 skip bins. I don't know if you guys know what skip bins are, but they're big industrial fucking bins on the road, and a crane with a bucket. And that crane was just filling these skip bins up, and it was just full of the tiles. So I think what's happened is this building's only fucking 2 years old. He's had to have the whole patio torn up because the tradespeople here must have done such a shit job working out how to do tiling that my walls and shit were leaking. And I think he was trying to get it. But this is it. Like, I don't know if there's like proper tradespeople here. I'm probably offending some Maltese, like actual tradesmen. But like, I have fucking power issues. There's this, there's that. Like, it's like, man, it wouldn't fly in Australia. That's what I'm saying. You wouldn't be passing the building code. Okay. So we talked about the RMRs as a whole. We spoke about kind of things we would adjust. The format, I can see there was some conversation about things getting a bit prickly, like when we had the gauntlet match, for example. The best example,
Deciders, you mean?
Yeah, well, it was like Imperial Pain, and then the winner that took on Complexity, right? Like that was pretty hype in itself. But like those type of things, I don't think we can avoid them in Swiss if they don't have 8 slots, right? If there's only 6 slots, or if there's like 5 legend slots and only this many, you know. We need those type of matches.
What was the problem?
No, there wasn't. I'm just like that's the point.
There is
what were
definitely
people
a problem.
complaining about? Yeah, that's the problem.
I mean, there's definitely a problem with Buchholz deciding like basically a team that just either gets a straight legend spot, which is what happened with ENCE, I want to say, or Sprout as well at some point actually. Yeah, and the other two teams, playing in an actual straight match for it. Like why does the
Cloud9
seeding
versus Spirit, for
why
example,
does the seeding system, decide legend spots? Like that's really big. And the same thing happened with the gauntlet you were talking about with Imperial. They had to play pain first, and complexity got an upper hand because they faced the toughest opposition. This is kind of like more good for seeding purposes, but not to a degree where you have a match advantage or just straight up advance based on it. You should just have all of the teams with the same record playing against each other. Even if it was just best of one matches where they play each other until somebody gets 2 wins in a row.
Didn't we do that in IEM Fall? Was it IEM Fall?
We were in a three-way tie in FPX when we were in the Stockholm Major against MOUZ Sports and Big, and we basically had to play each other round until one team beat both teams in the same round. So basically it was like a triple rock paper scissors until someone beat both of them.
Yeah, I think that would have been a better solution than what it is now, where I don't know if it was made because to cut down on the number of matches or why exactly, but it doesn't feel like when you've had whatever it was that we saw, like 200 matches or some shit that we saw over the past week. It wasn't that many, but it felt like it. If you have that many already, you might as well just add in a few more best of ones just to decide things properly. Not have to.
Yeah, I guess
use
that's
the
a conversation with Valve, right?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's something that they.
It wasn't even it was overtime. You played overtime.
That's right.
Only overtime, no other rounds.
Yeah, I mean that's also a bit
until someone won both.
Yeah, I mean that's also a bit,
cutthroat.
Yeah, very extremely cutthroat.
It is, but still, at least it's gun rounds. It's rounds every round essentially.
True. Yeah,
that's
I mean,
at
least it's a way, But like, my point is, the reason it's bad is because these teams had no say in who they were facing. That there was no way that they could have earned their way. Like the advantage that they got. As a result of the seeding system. So, like, why do you punish teams for something that they have literally zero power over? Seeding is a different thing. Like, at least you have to seed matchups in some way, right? Like, you have to have a system, but not to get an actual competitive advantage based on it. I think that's just terrible.
So what's a suggestion that we could so other this is just play the matches? But
I think it would just be like what the Devilwalk explained, except just like normal best of one match was just to break that 3-1 tie. That where it was for
like
for
what we discussed for them to do in round robin for Pro League. Like if there was ties
for example,
there are some complications with it, but for example, like the veto system was super weird because we were supposed to play on the same map with 3 people vetoing at the same time.
That's really crazy.
Like in one
3 bans each.
No, but like
you get 2 bans each.
Yeah, 2 bans each. But it's like if you start where, like
if you start,
how is the order going? In the veto, and then who picks side, like everything.
I don't know who came up with that system, but I don't think it's very good.
It was very messy.
But I just mean normal. It could just be normal tiebreaker matches, where like teams just veto against each other again, or even play this. I mean, they can't play the same map because they haven't played each other before, maybe potentially. But you could just run vetoes and then just run the matches until somebody wins 2 times. It's not that difficult.
But that would take forever. Imagine if it's just like a round. It's 3 hours every time you would go around, or 2 hours. I mean,
yeah, I mean it could take a long time, but considering. These matches could just run on the last day, where other people are already like trying to qualify and the legend spots don't come into play, because that's what happened on the last day of there was only the deciders that were played on the last day for the A group, which actually mattered in terms of legend spots. So why not just use the day to play these best of one matches? Like it's going to resolve after one day. Like it's not like you're going to play.
I don't really like the idea of like the three ways. Like I think what they did.
You're not a fan of 3 ways.
Nah, for me it has to be pair, like 2, 4, 6.
You're a traditional type of guy.
Yeah, also look them in the eye.
Anyway, Prof, before we derail you too far,
talking about derailing, yeah, I think what they did here with the kind of like a gauntlet is okay. Like you see the gauntlet based on the book holds, but at least you play the games, right?
Like the Vitality,
you have
Heroic OG.
Two teams playing, and the winner plays against the third, and that's the way you know how long everything's gonna take, and you can't go into these like weird scenarios where you have like 3-way bans or ties.
I
or
mean, you don't
whatever.
have to play the three-way bans. That was my point in the first place. Like, you don't
Yeah,
have
but
to
I'm just
make
saying
it
you,
so
you don't need to
difficult for
do like
yourself.
a whole circle with the 3 teams.
Oh yeah, okay. Well,
You can
what
you
a-
can just do
let's stop with the
one-on-ones
circle
and
jerk jokes.
So what about overtime though? Do we think that overtime Valve need to update it to be similar with what Blast and ESL are running at the moment with 12.5K?
that
Because
would
there
be
was some
very nice.
saves and shit in
That would be
OT.
very nice. Like I think that was like universally accepted as a pretty easy, good way. Like it's better than both 16 and 10K. So
But
why
I
not do
mean,
it?
if you could manipulate the round loss bonus for each round, I think you could change the overtime system in that way instead of giving them the starting money.
But
Just to get around the yapping issue and things like that. You know?
Yes.
if we
yeah,
were
sure.
to, if we, it'd be, I'm with you there because that conversation is a massive one that we can have, but it's one that is probably harder to get past Valve. Whereas it would be like, yo, Valve, Blast and ESL are running this.
Change this number. Change this number. It'll be okay.
Just make this So that I think it'd be easier for us to get past. I know I agree with what you're saying. There's definitely better ways we could do it in general.
Yeah.
But I think that might be something we can get past the keeper if we see him. You know, say, yo, listen up. Let's just try and, especially if the players bring it to them and say, hey, overtime, can we have it like this? Because we don't want saving to be in overtime, for example, which I think we'd all win. Okay, is there anything else from like a bigger picture, like a bird's eye view of the whole RMR system that we've just had? Is there anything else that we want to bring up before we start getting into talking about teams and stuff?
I mean, there was just a kind of like a discussion that basically kind of crops up every time that we have these RMRs, which is that, like, why don't some teams just earn a spot at the major? You know, for example, if it was top 4 or top 8 at the last major, as we used to, where you just get a direct invite to the next one. I mean, it used to be 16 even, right? And we just had 8 spots decided. But, you know, there is a discussion around that, whether that's a better idea, just because, you know, why do we need like the big favorites, you know, to have to run through kind of like teams that we obviously don't expect to do particularly well. And and especially like if they've done well during the whole year or something like that, you know, there will be a much better chance that's, you know, leaving enough of a chance for obviously, you know, all the teams to be able to advance, but at least like the big names we would have confirmed so that we know that these teams are there, you know.
I can only justify the winner of the
The
previous.
winner I can justify as well.
100%.
That makes 1,000% sense. You know, you want the reigning champion to be there, like no matter what. I don't think any team would be like, oh no, they got a, you know, like I think no one can argue against that kind of, and it also makes the winning position and the prize pool kind of more important in that sense also.
Yeah.
And you get to, and it's also kind of like comes along with like Valve's approach to these things in general, where they like the idea of defending your own slot at the major as well. And so, you know, coming into the next major as the defending champions, you know, always being able to be there no matter what. That is definitely a good sentiment.
Yeah, that right there, I think, is a conversation that could be had. I don't know, Prof. Would you consider more teams, or you think because I don't
want
have
to
a
lock
hard
up
time.
too much. You know, I think
not
it
a lot.
locks the scene up too much. You want more young people coming up.
I think I think this is fine. Honestly, like seeing how so far things have developed, I don't think we really missed out on any great teams at the majors.
I mean,
like you can say now G2, but that they wouldn't be safe by what you're saying. Like they didn't even make
playoffs
last time. So I think at max would be top 4 for me. That would be invited. I'd be fine with that. I don't think that changes much in the whole grand scheme of things. And it is in a way kind of exciting, more like maybe some traditional sports like football and shit like that where everyone needs to requalify except like the hosting nation. And I think it's fine. Like everyone's playing the same tournaments. No one gets extra time off. It's good. So far it's good. I was leaning towards like a top 4 before, but so far how things have gone, like I'm happy with this. I wouldn't change it, honestly.
Okay. I think it's also the big factor is just that the major is now basically the only thing that doesn't rely on any sort of invites, you know, and partnership slots or whatever. It's a complete reset.
I love it.
You just you can earn your spot at the major no matter where you come from, and it's all 24 spots, you know. So there's something nice about that, especially in the scene that we have now, where so many spots are locked out by partnerships and very few by that are decided by qualifiers.
You don't get this bullshit of some other team qualified for the event the past year and then they just get a free ride because they're riding on someone else's achievements, basically.
Right.
I never really liked that.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into talking about some of these. Well, we have the North American, well, the American, not the NA. It says NA here. I apologize, guys. Just reading what's right. Just do a teleprompter. I
Definitely
don't have
didn't do
any.
that. Definitely not me.
I don't
Definitely
have
not
any
me.
original thoughts. It's the Americas RMR and the EU RMRs, right? So I guess it's 3 in total that we're going to be talking about here. Now, there's different points in which we can get into different topics. So I don't know if we want to get the big news out of the way or if we want to save the big news to the end, because the big news
just
is gonna
roll, go by feel. You know,
Go
you
by
don't have
feel.
to go so structured.
Well, we have a
Devilwalk
tier.
coaching
Yeah,
method.
just go.
This is how you want to major with FaZe.
We have a tier
Gut feeling.
maker, right?
Trust
We've got this this tier maker here to be putting all to the teams into and kind of like putting them in their place. So what if we use that to structure the conversation? We can stay quite free flowing, but then when we have a team, we can whack them in where we think that they deserve in our little tier maker, and then we can keep the conversation moving like that. Does that work
That's
for
great.
everybody?
I love
that works.
Yeah.
All right.
I love
so,
how we have Dimitri and we just like derail the whole structure of the show instantly. Just make it. He's sweating. He's sweating right now. Like, what is going on?
he's gonna smash this. So Dimitri, if you could bring out the tier maker for everybody playing at home, and so we could all see it. I'll run everybody through what we've got. I'm gonna have to bring that up over the screen over here. It's too fucking blurry. If we went with my suggestions, I'm pretty sure I went with. Hold on, I've got to load Discord. I'm a bit unprepared. I was finishing a game of Gundam Evolution just before I got in here. You know, it's high intensity. I like giant robots. All right, took care of business. Impressed from left field as expected, and SADGE. Let's start with SADGE. Can we put G2 and Astralis
G2 and
immediate?
Look, Astralis from
I
what
think
kind of
even some
perspective?
people could argue Astralis on expected.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think there's a very good argument there, because like we just didn't know whether they would be anywhere near like qualification form.
Well, let's do this. Let's put them in SADGE as well, but then we can move them after we do the SADGE part, and then we can move them into expected.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So in the SADGE column, the reason that a team like Astralis is here is they are the most winningest team in major history. Not have them at a major is like one of the dynasty squads falling off the face of the earth, right?
Yeah.
That is the sad part. Now, the expected part is, I think most of us thought there was a likelihood that this could happen. So, Dimitri, you can move them into expected now.
Even Glaive said even Glaive was very like realistic about their expectations. You know, they were saying like, okay, if everything goes well, like I can see us qualify, but you know, if we don't have the numbers or whatever he was saying exactly, I don't remember the 100% exact sentiment, but he was very aware that, you know, they are in a position where they could definitely not qualify, you know, and that's crazy to say for somebody like Glaive, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, contextually, I mean, they lost config. They have to play with a new gun pretty short notice. I don't think they can even remotely give him the whole playbook and expect him to remember everything. So they probably have to make adjustments mid-round even compared to what they normally would want to in the mid-round.
You almost have to wonder if, you know, when you come to the decision of who you're going to register as a sub. I know the options are relatively limited because you can't, once you pass the open qualifier stage, you can't even be registered as a sub for anybody else. But anyway, obviously there are always going to be names out there that are going to be maybe better players than your talent team, you know, because obviously you just can't get the best talent that is available, you know. But somebody from FPL, like, that's very like super, you know, interesting, you know, they would maybe have a better chance with more firepower from a guy like that, you know. So there's definitely an argument against, you know, using just purely your talent team because it's your talent team, and you know, you want them to get the experience and you want them to be in the system, you know, of your team. You know, that doesn't necessarily play out very well if you want to replace like a guy that has so much firepower as a config, you know, because obviously, you know, this guy, Mr. wasn't particularly even a star in the talent team, and that's a problem if you get to step up.
Do we think he was the problem? Because obviously, like,
Mr. was not the problem.
Astralis's performances before the major, they barely qualified. Literally, they had like they were okay in Blast. EPL wasn't great. Qualifiers were kind of shit, and then they lose config on top of that. Like,
I don't think he was the problem. He was the problem. I'm saying the fact that they didn't have somebody to step up like the config, you know, that does have these games where he just takes over and you know, just creates opportunities for Astralis out of the blue, you know, out of nothing. Like, he's just not going to be that guy who's going to get them
But
into that next
look,
level.
the long and the short of all of this is like Astralis have made bad roster decisions, right?
Oh,
They
yeah.
missed the boat.
Yeah.
They didn't pick up the players they should have. They're the reason they were in this situation.
Yep.
They initially, once Blame and Config joined the team, overperformed back at that Copenhagen Blast event, which set them on a path where they thought that they were going to pull things off. It hasn't really worked by having Blame and Glaive in the same team. The same with Zip. Their overlap in terms of leadership, in terms of lurky positions. Everything's had to be readjusted. This is SADGE because it's the organization that's not there. It's expected because we know that this team wasn't going to perform. And then the next question has to be, what comes next? Because today we've seen the news about Config being dropped from the team, which is what we expected after we saw all of this fight stuff come in. Whether people agree with that or not, it's what's expected of this top level of business, especially when a company is publicly floated on the share market. And a result like this, a scandal like this would directly reflect the, confidence in the shares and people buying the shares, right? So we knew this was going to happen. So this is actually the best thing that probably could have happened to Astralis, because if they had qualified, they'd keep limping as this broken-legged fucking pirate and until they would have, imploded at some point down the line, right? This is good for them. They should be aggressive now in the moves, and with the device news that came out about him paying part of his own buyout for Astralis going forward, if we get Glaive, Blame F, and Device and 2 more good players, there can be a good team again. But if they don't do that and they stick with the pieces they have and they continue to think that this team is going to function with just Device coming in, they're fooling themselves. They're fooling themselves here. This is the best thing that could happen to Astralis. And right now, looking forward, they've got the showdown, fix the fucking roster, start working now for Blast Paris. That's it.
I mean, the issue with that is considering Astralis' decisions were often based on, them not wanting to put out the money to buy out the players that they wanted, or that, were obvious, on the market, but they just didn't want to pay for them. Considering what they will probably have to pay for Device, and I think that some of the numbers that have been thrown around, something like 800k euros or somewhere between in the 500 to 1 million euro range, after buying a player like that, let's say the bank is not going to be that big, for you to break it out for.
But they already got that
more
money
big players.
from NIP in the first place.
Well, but maybe that was just a plaster on some losses that they suffered before that. So like it's just.
I'm pretty sure they didn't just put it in the bank and let it sit there, right?
That's how you earn money,
I'm also sure that's not how you earn money. But what I want to say is the worst thing is even adding Device instead of Config doesn't make this
no
functioning team. They still have 2 uppers. Now this doesn't make any sense. Still,
it makes even less sense because the structure of the team with the lineup they preferred or got in the first place doesn't make sense from the start either, because they have too much of a passive lineup. Glaive is a very reactive in-game leader, playing with slow-based lurkers. They only have one guy going entry, and he's usually either won the round or dead with the first 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Where are you going with the reactive calls? Like, how are you? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
The structure of the team, it doesn't make sense for a caller like Glaive.
Yep, 100%. Well, 100%. I agree with that whole.
So what do you think? What kind of player? Let's say the Device move comes through. So that's for Farley, because it doesn't make sense to replace Config with him. Who is the Config replacement to make this team functional? Maybe not like specific player, but what kind of a player that maybe exists on the international market
Let's just look at what they had before, right? What made them work? They had Dupree, very aggressive rifler. They had Magisk, who could step into any role. If the entry died, he could take over. Glaive could also do it, but that was like last, kind of solution. And if he saw a moment of aggression, he could take it, right? But right now, you only have one guy in comparison to what I feel, at least, compared to those 3. Because if you're having Glaive in a supportive role, he's not going to be reactive. And he's going to be helping the entry, and he can't be taking over the entry role trying to fix it. It's too obvious. He's already in that location helping him most of the time. So I just feel like it becomes this weird thing where they have to always slowly poke for success, and then they leave themselves with the low round time, stress to make decision. It doesn't. They don't grow into the round fast enough until they get overwhelmed. I feel.
Bubsky would have been perfect.
There's one very obvious name out there,
Who?
which is there.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
well, you could take Xiphon as well from that
Well, I mean, you
roster.
might as well
could
take
use
them both,
of
you know, and just like replace Apex at the same time, you know, of course. I mean,
100%.
that's definitely a solution out there. But Stare is actually a good replacement for Config himself. Like he is aggressive player, very, you know, focused on his aim and like a pretty much a one-to-one, like a really solid one-to-one replacement, you know. So and just, you know, a young guy that obviously has a big future ahead of him. Like this is a guy that Astralis should have like Astralis' scouting has been just fucking shocking to me.
It's
Like, how
been
did they
terrible.
not get any of the Copenhagen Flames players that were like $50,000 each? How did they never, you know, spotted this talent like Stare? How did they never, you know, get a chance on even if it was Xiphon, you know, they even, you know, they had
They've
it before,
ruined
right?
more
So-
players' careers than they've started in the last 2 years.
But they kind of went
Yeah.
the same route as NIP though. Like, I feel like it's the same story, just
funny
Danish.
that they have the same type of structure at the top. Who would have thought that these teams who have people put in place that think they know better don't actually know better? And that's the most critical thing that we've been of those two organizations on this show is about the way that they've run their ship. And then we're the ones that get put in the fucking crosshairs that we're bad guys making up bullshit PR. It's like, are you guys even looking at the results of your teams? So you got lucky this time around, NIP. Like you somehow stuck the landing on this one slightly. It's like, but how long is the consistency of this going to keep? I was like, what are we talking about?
That's the problem. I mean, NIP this roster. Okay, let's see how they do. They might just be the best team in the world in like 6 months. Maybe not. But the thing is, like, they've been spending so much fucking money on their signings.
Yeah, they were
Like,
making big moves. Yeah.
and people are kind of looking at them as if they're some like second tier organization. Like they bought Brolin for hundreds of thousands, they bought Device for hundreds of thousands, like maybe the most anyone ever paid for a
Who
player.
spent more, G2
Then-
or NIP?
Aleksib also was bought out for like a significant chunk of change. Like these are huge fucking signs. This is like FaZe level bullshit, and they are not even close to winning tournaments. So if with this lineup they don't do it, it is time to like really look at them like what the is happening in this team. I muted myself so Dimitri doesn't have to. Let's go.
Isn't that kind of you? I think we could go like constantly around and around in circles discussing where these issues come from and why, and you know who's made worse decisions. I think that the proof is in the pudding, though, right? This is they found themselves in this scenario now, and the writing's been on the wall for some time. They've just been on life support, and I fucking love this event because it exposes these teams. Like people go, oh yeah, but they had it. They had a substitute. It's like yeah, but they had a like.
They have a substitute and a coach and a mental coach and an analyst and
look
and
at the
a foot
context of the other
massager
team.
and yeah.
They don't have any of this shit.
Some of them haven't earned a salary in like 10 months, you know, like some of them grinding FPL money, you know, to live.
Was it like one win barely even got to Malta? Like they didn't practice for like 2 weeks
there,
or
mate.
shit.
Don't you worry, they got a private jet there.
yeah, but they were fucking around with visas and bullshit. Like their like preparation was completely shit, right? And this is, I don't know. It's some of these losses are inexcusable completely.
But we know, okay, so we've already touched on the Astralis needs a complete overhaul. Now, that's what we think here, and I think we feel that as a collective. But let's have a show here. Does anybody think that they will actually do anything aggressive like we think? Or do we think they will just add device and go, oh, here's a Band-Aid, bang. You have a massive gash,
I mean,
you
there
need to
has
go to hospital.
They have to back one of the in-game leaders. That's it. I think that's the solution, so they can get another aggressive player in, fill that spot. That's my opinion.
What did you? I don't know what you said. What did you say?
They have to pick either Blame F or Glaive.
Replace one of the two?
Whoa.
I think so. I personally think so.
Then you have to keep Blame.
Yeah, then you keep Blame.
So
If that's
you
your
don't
opinion.
think that would work? You think there's too much of a
I just
power
think
struggle?
you have to structure it the way I see it as a problem. Maybe that they have so different play styles as in-game leaders that I think they can create. This is a potentiality, obviously, but I see the problem potentially occurring where you split the teams in camps where some part of the team is voting, let's play like he wants us to play, and then the other camp is, let's play like he wants to play, and they never get anything working because they have these two very, very different philosophies, historically at least, from
very
both of these
polarizing.
players.
Yep.
I think for me, it has to be the moment to make big changes because they did not make the major. And with that, of course, a lot of the sticker money goes to players, but that's also a great financial injection for the org. And I think this is a moment when they can be like, okay, maybe some of these players have like big contracts. Maybe this is the moment when we can, you know, you guys didn't fucking qualify for the major. We can't justify paying tens of thousands of dollars to a player like Xypnix anymore. And then maybe they reset, maybe they go and scout, like maybe scout, I don't know, just burn it down, start again. Because
But how did they even miss the boat with the talent roster? Like, you would think by this point you would have had a player that you wanted to use.
I mean, didn't they have FaZe on the team?
But he was playing with
there
Monty.
for a minute.
They even had Zyphon, which is funny.
Jesus Christmas.
So they had all of the players that maybe like
They just operated too late on the changes.
What's the opera also that qualified for the major? I forgot, but some of the it's just bad.
Anyway, the Hopper that qualified, there's a few of them. All right. Does anybody want a final say on Astralis before we'll talk about config and then we'll have a final say on Astralis. Okay. Yeah. Is anybody else as surprised as I am to see the level of sympathy on Twitter and in the Reddit thread for config?
I am.
Surprised by the sympathy?
I'm very surprised by the sympathy.
Yeah.
I am actually, when you read it, I'm actually not.
But it's his side of the story.
Yeah, because people just take it as it is always.
It's like, oh, he's telling 100% the truth here.
I mean, but to be fair, like he admitted a lot of his mistakes, a lot of the mistakes on his part. Like he said, like I fucked up, this is the reason why.
And then still frame it from my perspective. I'm not. Yeah. I don't know.
No matter what situation, you should not be kicked in the head while you're laying down on the ground. Like that, you can, no matter what, find sympathy for that. He was, even no matter what, events ended up to that, place. No one deserves to be on the ground kicked in a foreign country, in the head until you're dizzy enough and walk. You don't know. It's so many worries.
But it's more like how it's like obviously, there's provocation and sometimes it's just going to be emotions running too high and things like that. And it's just like a lot of the time, of course, you don't have a lot of choice in the matter. It's just going to get heat up to a degree where you just can't stop it anymore. But you don't know. We don't know how that went exactly, but from what Config was saying himself, he kind of admitted like he shouldn't have gone after the guy. Like he should have just calmed down and just had, let it go and not, pursued him. Because like after the first, little incident that he explained where it was just like a spit in the face, there was like a kick or something, but clearly he was okay at that point.
Well,
he
I
didn't
think
get
said
hurt.
Something about he hurt his ankle after the initial exchange.
Yeah.
But it was adrenaline and stuff.
Yeah, that would probably not like put him out for a month.
Yeah, I think. Well, there was the detail that like his leg was broken only in the second part. Like I think it might have been like a dislocated foot or something at first or whatever happened. But
I love
my
how.
Point is,
just want to quickly jump in. I want to jump in for a second, Striker. Everybody in chat is saying I have an L take, right?
But he didn't even have a take. He just asked the question.
I was surprised with the sympathy, and I said, yeah, I was surprised with the sympathy because before, right, there was no sympathy. It was Config getting into fights, this, that, and the other. Now there's a shitload of sympathy. So it's like, I'm surprised. They read this take, everybody on the internet is automatic like this. At the same time, we still don't even have the whole story. It's just Config side of the story. Yeah. You know why I'm amazingly like surprised that Astralis have gotten away with this? It's absolutely insane. Is like they came out initially after this thing happened and they were just like, oh yeah, Config will be taking some time off with a broken ankle. That was it. But they must have known about the fight, right? How could he have gotten out of the country without his teammates or management or anybody telling anybody?
This is just another moment where you can just see that you cannot trust some of this PR coming from teams in general, but some specific teams more than others. Like this is it's an absolute joke from what they said and what it turned out to be.
I actually found it more funny how they I mean, it's not really funny, but it's still funny because like you look at how they even explained this whole cancellation of his contract and the way that they talked about it, like you would have no idea like what the fuck was behind it. Like zero clue that there was anything wrong, or what happened exactly. It was just like personal circumstances, and the way that they even said, about a situation that Config doesn't want to talk about publicly. Literally 10 minutes later, a message with Hunger comes out from Config explaining his side of the story. So I don't know if they didn't know that Config would eventually do that, or if they just wanted to pressure him into not, talk, not have him talk about everything.
He should say whatever he wants to say. I'm sure in this situation, there's probably like no severance package or anything like that. It's just like, yo, you've kind of fucked our image a bit here, bro. Can you get the fuck out now?
Yeah, I mean, people are also shitting on Astralis for like cutting him essentially, which seems to be like, as you said, that he's not getting anything. When you think about like how much this cost them, and I'm presuming they think that he has some responsibility in this case, right? And I think that is fair to say, right?
I mean, he said it, but again, he's
from his own
himself.
words, from his own words, like he is sorry for what happened. So he fucked up. He cost them potentially like $1 million for the team not having a major, not going to the major. Is like, yeah, it's similar to the Carlos situation. You can say whatever you want about what he did, maybe agree, maybe disagree, maybe it wasn't the right thing to do, but there are like financial circumstances to this, and after that you can't really just imagine fucking the rest of the team after this, like, oh yeah, we are not going to the major because our star rifler did something stupid that he regrets and put us all in a shitty position, and then we just can wait for him for like 3 months to come back and play with him again. It's definitely gonna cause some bad vibes, at least in the team.
Like a lot of friction for sure, 100%.
And who knows when he's gonna continue? He's gonna come back, right? Because from his tweet longer, it doesn't seem like he's in a great state. So, like, good luck to him. I hope he's gonna recover and come back, and everything's gonna be fine. But like, even if they wait, they're gonna be in this like a weird limbo situation that we have, like all of FaZe situation or the device NIP situation, where the team goes for like a year not knowing what the fuck is happening with a key fucking player on their team. So I don't know. I understand completely why they would do it. Not great, especially considering like a health issue that they are maybe not supporting him in some way. Doesn't seem like they're really off on great terms, but it's kind of very burned down bridge, I feel like, from both sides.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much more of the fallout that's going to be here. We also don't know what happened behind the doors. Maybe this was a good excuse as well for Astralis to get rid of a player that they thought was inconsistent. I don't know. There's a lot of things that we don't know. And I'm sure, considering how much Jackson have been reporting on this, that we'll see more from this in the future. I feel that this will be their go-to hot topic every Monday. We'll get some new little fucking article coming out.
Just like Device. Weekly Device thread.
There'll be something,
to be fair, though, like there's no real new info on this compared to what we heard from those reports. I mean, this is fairly like corroborated from even Config's point of view and the fan or whoever it was who kind of like witnessed the whole situation. I mean, it's pretty much 1-to-1 apart from, like very specific details about the fight and whatever it is, but like from a general standpoint, it is pretty much what was reported. There was like an altercation at first, but then the guy came out and then Config went after him, and he was unstoppable, was the wording of the report. This seems very, very, very solid in terms of what Config said after the fact, even though he called it mostly BS, in that initial response. I mean, if anything, like he's done as much as possible to confirm exactly what was said before.
Can't we have send Chad as an on-site reporter interviewer the bouncer?
I could head down there now.
Yeah,
I could.
You know
right
the place,
now.
right?
Yeah, I know exactly. It's about a 15-minute walk from my home, so I could be down there in no time. We could see if I can find the promoter, get him on the show. Say, hey, do you want to tell your side of the story?
That would be awesome.
Yeah, we get him in here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I bring him in my house.
TMZ.
Might have to do a bit of like a Goles Lemus situation where
maybe not the best idea to do that.
No, but all right. Look, I'm sure there'll be, like I said, I'm sure that there'll be plenty more that'll come from this story. Don't you guys worry about that. All right, let's jump into G2, right? We put them in the SADGE column as well. Let's jump into G2 because this is a fun one. This is a really fun one. So let's start again with why they're in SADGE. This game, watching them lose, reminded me of how much I hated losing. I had forgotten. I had been so detached from that feeling of being hollow and empty, and your life and everything that you had just put into something of trying to realize your dream is now worth nothing. And everybody around you, or not everybody around you, but 50% of the people around you are celebrating the achievement that you were there to be able to pull off and were unable to do so. And seeing that and seeing like the heartbreak on that team, it reminded me of that feeling. And I felt like that with combination of watching the Tabson round on Inferno, I felt physically ill from Counter-Strike. I was like, these are two of the most sickening things that could possibly happen. And then I went back in time and I went, oh shit, I did block 2016 out of my memory. That's when I didn't qualify for MLG Columbus and I didn't qualify for Cologne. And like the teams that we lost to there and like the way that we lost, and it's like, oh, like it it hurts, and you don't want to do anything for like days after. So it reminded me of the human side of this, and hopefully it reminded everybody at home of the human side of this, because it's what this is all about, right? It's why we're so involved in this game, is because this either makes or breaks people's lives. We obviously have the Imperial story, which is like the big pop-off side, and we have this G2 story, which is heartbreaking. Now, I imagine you guys weren't as heartbroken as I was, but it was a tough.
I mean, it's still
tough
fucking
loss.
terrible not to have Nico. Obviously the whole G2 team, but Nico specifically, he's been at the majors for I don't know how the fuck long at this point. He was obviously in a position to win one, and to not have him there is the biggest blow. Because everybody else, obviously JKS, has only come back recently, and he missed out a couple as well. And it's not like we're particularly used to him fighting for deep runs there. But like Nico specifically, I think for him this is a fucking huge blow. The team as a whole, I think, they'll survive it. This is Monesi is so early in his career. HooXi just entered this team. Obviously, with his achievements with Copenhagen Flames at the past 2 majors, it doesn't feel great. But this is only his 3rd major, not that big of a deal. JKS again, he's missed out on a few. Hunter and Nico, are the two that you're gonna feel the worst about, and just not having a player like Nico at the major is obviously terrible.
You've raised an interesting point here, and I want to throw this to the room. You said this team will survive. Now, this is the question that I have for the room. Do we think that this roster, as the complexion is right now, will survive until the next RMR, right?
I think they deserve to.
Yeah.
Okay. This is where I want to take.
Yes.
So grab off this here, Devilwalk, if you will.
Yeah.
My stance is, if there is anything swirling around in this next week or two after, and there is anybody in the team, in any position, that doesn't think that this team is capable of being able to be a good team going forward, that they need, especially if it comes from the trio, and this is the trio that none of them will be removed, just so everyone's aware, Nico, Hunter, and Monesi. That trio is not going anywhere. So it's either JKS or HooXi or both. Now, my standpoint is, I agree with the sentiment that you've just displayed, but if anything in that group, including the coaching staff, think that a change needs to happen, it needs to happen right now.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
There's no time to wait, because you're essentially looking at a squad that, how long did they play together? 3 months-ish?
Not even.
2 months.
2 months.
Yep.
We're looking at a new structure, everything new with the in-game leader. I'm sure they saved some things, but essentially the whole structure, getting used to new teammates with some different roles, different calling styles. There's a lot to unpack, and my sentiment is you cannot even have a competitive map pool unless you've spent 3 to 6 months with each other. That's my opinion. Otherwise there's going to be a lot of inconsistency with more gut feeling calls, rather than outplaying them with necessarily the structure and knowing exactly what's going to go on the server. So I actually think that you need to at least give them 6 months. They've had 2 now, so why not give them another shot at the RMR?
Do we think they will, though?
I think
that's impossible to answer, right? But I think looking at what they've done, they've changed now in-game leaders a couple of times. I don't know how many more they can kind of look
how
for.
Many are left?
Yeah, exactly. I think they put
Alex is out
themselves
there.
in an awkward position if they wanted to change it.
Yeah, I think it was also from what came out of the camp in the responses to being eliminated. It seemed like it had just a lot to do with confidence after a couple of bad losses and heading into that GamerLegion one. From what Nico said was interesting to me, because of how he said never take things for granted, because it almost felt like maybe he hadn't put as much work as he normally would, thinking I've always qualified, it's never been a problem for me to make it to the major. It's always been more the majors where I've had some of my struggles, so he might have felt this way, and that's why he wasn't in a particularly great shape during this major. And in those 2 losses, he didn't have those pop-off matches that would have gotten G2 out of trouble. It was more, if anybody, it was mostly Monesi,
maybe that
who was stepping up.
16-0 reaffirmed those
exactly.
feelings they had prior to the event, kind of sneakily.
This is like a massive wake-up call, obviously, and so it's just that's what's more what I'm focused on, that it doesn't seem to have too much to do with, you know, them seeing anybody from the team as an actual problem. It was more like a whatever atmosphere, confidence type of issue, maybe the wrong approach to the tournament in the first place, you know, where they maybe thought it was not going to be as hard as it was.
Yeah, Nico 107 rating, which is for his standards pretty bad. Let's be real. Like he's a 120
He's a
rating
star of the
player.
team. Let's put it as he is. He's the star of the team. He's meant to be a Zywo, a simple at that level.
And against the teams that they played, 1 win, they 16-0 ecstatic, and then GamerLegion, you expect him to farm these teams. Okay, Cloud9, that's fair.
That's respectable.
That's completely
and they
fine,
could have won that game.
Yeah.
It was a close game.
And even like his opening duels are 22%, like not that much success, like not that much, like fine. But last year or like 3 months ago, he would be like taking all of the opening duels, winning them, posting sick frags, like sick numbers. It's very, I feel like there is something to what Striker is saying there in terms of maybe he just didn't prepare as much as maybe he should have.
I mean, they also had that EPL, right, where they set records of going 5-0 in groups.
Yeah,
And they also ended up losing a 15-7 scoreline against Vitality in a semi-final matchup, which I think probably crushed them significantly.
I mean, Vitality, honestly, they are one of my weird picks to win the major as I'm looking at the games.
Just to keep it on G2, they mentioned like losing confidence. This is like what Xta has tweeted about. Like, what game, when did they lose confidence?
I reckon the C9 game, which is stupid because they should have won that game. But I
mean,
think
it could have been the 1-win game, you know, where they just like had an off game, you know. And
so weird because if you actually look at the stats, it actually looks like 1-win has full control over this game. Like they had more entries, they even lost more clutches. They had both. G2 started the game in probably the best way you could, with 1-win winning pistol and then them picking up weapons and securing the
5-1 lead.
And if you go from a 5-1 lead to losing like this, it shouldn't happen. Like they had the best possible start they could have. Ancient CT side, I think it was where they started 5-1.
Yeah, but I mean, they also won the second pistol against
them.
Exactly. And they just completely crumbled on the T side. So
they fucking sucked.
Yeah,
they like that game. They sucked, and the game versus GamerLegion on Mirage, they sucked. Like they were bad.
How's that possible? I was looking. I just caught the end of the Mirage game, like 16-4. Losing 16-4.
Exactly.
G2 is losing 16-4 on Mirage. Like this is their map. This is their map.
This should be their 2-0, you know, in the series. Instantly, it's gone, done, dusted. Let's go, move on. You know,
it was so hard to watch, man. Like especially after they won that first map, it's like, okay, well, normality restored. They got their mojo back. The 1-win game, it was just stupid. Don't know how they lost that, but whatever. It was ancient, fine, best of 1. Now they're in the best of 3s. Everything should be fine. And then they lose that, and it's like, what the fuck?
I don't know. Honestly,
it could be a hard game or a game to prep against or GamerLegion. It could be one of those opponents they didn't
just go God mode.
Yeah, but the sentiment of Acor, like before the tournament, was obviously he was rated a lot lower than he is right now. Because he had the struggles with his past teams. We don't really know where they were. I'm sure if I looked at the GamerLegion lineup, like, it could be, you know, some potential in the future, you know, kind of that sentiment. I don't think people expected them to just go guns blazing, you know, and also remembering G2 goes into that match knowing they pushed FaZe to the limit. So maybe they like kind of over-respected GamerLegion a little bit instead of going for a little bit more like high-pressure Counter-Strike, which usually is a good solution as against worse teams or worst individual decision makers. Because high pressure, they will make mistakes.
So, I want to add on one thing because we're talking about G2 every show, right? Every show.
Well, people say we don't talk about G2.
Every
I don't know
why they keep saying that.
Every show we talk about G2. And I think now that we've had almost a year, I think, since Nexa left the team, I think he was the best fit for this team. And
the best fit for Nico
I'm pretty sure when Nico said like you don't know what you have, what did he say? Don't take things for granted. I'm pretty sure he wasn't talking about Nexa, but I feel like that fits
Okay.
what he's saying as
Okay.
well. Like you
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
what you have until you lost it. I think he was a great IGL for this team, but things went to shit, and like the atmosphere of the team, and there was like so many issues, like roster swaps and shit. They never really had like a stable 5, and I understand that things got to a bad position. I know Nexa was burnt out as fuck, and then
Yeah.
Amanek was calling for a bit, and Nico was calling. There was a lot of things going on through that whole online period. Kenny is in, out, whatever, Jax. But I feel like he fit this team, and he was probably the best option that they had, and now it's gone.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't know. Anything's possible. It's Counter-Strike, you know? Just like relationships. Anything's possible, guys. You know?
I don't think
And-
OG would let Nexa go for anything but a very high number.
Well, maybe G2 got some money under those couch cushions. Look, we
Could
could
have.
spend forever talking about G2. So maybe we leave it for now and we can return to the conversation.
Quick thoughts from Sponge and Striker. Are they going to change before the next RMR? Just if you had to guess, what did you say?
I say no.
I think they will, but they shouldn't.
I say yes. I think
Wow.
they will.
We have a split. We have a split.
But that's
They've got
But,
they've got ADHD, you know, like they'll change because they don't have to change, but they will
Yeah.
change.
They must
I
learn
just-
something
yeah.
from these.
No, they need a proper mental coach over there. Like
they
it's
have
But
the
then
mental.
they have to change staff and
Do
not
they?
players. You know.
yeah,
they have one.
they
now.
need a staff mentor.
Maybe they need one per player. I'm not even joking. And then those 5 who look after one per
But it
each
can't be
player,
the
then they
players
can have
making
one.
the decisions of the roster changes. That must be the organization in G2, right?
Do you believe that?
I think so.
I
don't
do.
believe that for a second.
I do.
I do.
You think it's the staff who are making the choices?
Yes.
What do you think? Nico is picking the players?
No, but I think that they have a lot more influence than we're giving it credit for. Like if
Yeah,
they're not
maybe,
happy
but
I
with
mean, of
someone,
course, there's going to be influence.
they
There
but-
will
had-
be influence.
If they
Yeah,
had
but
more
no matter where you are.
influence, they'd had Stewie or Fall in IGLing instead of Aleksib. So
but I just think in this situation, right? Like if they were going to make a change, if the org think that they should make a change, then the org don't know what they're doing. Like
Right.
the team showed promise.
Yeah.
The peak
Yeah,
of the
I
team
think-
has been shown. What is possible has been shown. Every clown at the moment has forgotten that Counter-Strike, thank God Devilwalk's on the show to add some perspective as a fucking former major winner. Thank fucking Christ. So these cretins on the forums can just keep their mouth shut for a second. It's like we're into 2 months of a fucking team.
It's
and you're
nothing.
expecting them to already be lifting a trophy. None of you have ever played Counter-Strike before at a professional level. What the fuck are you talking about? It doesn't work like that. Like you can't just make a change every time because something doesn't work. All 5 of these players need to understand everything that the system is meant to be. This split-second decision-making is the reason why I never thought I'd have to play striker and pimp any fucking money, is because the amount of capacity in the brain to communication, to understanding, to all of that, it's not easy. Just because you
Right, so
play your fucking
allocating
FaZe
focus
games
to
at home.
different things and different timings when you're playing Counter-Strike, you know. Sometimes if you only focus on the crosshair, you're not going to hear any comms, then you're fucked up, you know. You did, you know. You need to be able to take things in, be able to exchange information with each other, and also be able to play the game at the right timing, you know. It's not just your average you know, face it, where you just do whatever you feel. If you do whatever you feel, you're not on a pro team.
And you're not going to win.
I think it's also that G2 have actually been quite stable. I mean, of course, there was that period where, you know, where they were kind of like considering who to keep between Amanek and Jax, but that was like after they got Nico. You know, obviously you're gonna kind of like have to pick one. Like if you get Nico, you just have to, somebody has to go out. But then since then it's not like they've made a lot of changes. You know, that was basically like from that whole Jax or Amanek or Kenya situation, they basically stayed intact for a year until they got Aleksib for nexa and then m0NESY as an upper, and then it took them half a year, you know, for them to realize, okay, maybe this is not working. And I think everybody saw that it wasn't working, that there was something wrong fundamentally, you know, with the approach to how they played, right? So
isn't that a little bit G2's own fault because of they've done like kind of they put a lot of pressure on this roster from the get-go when they did this m0NESY
They
buyout, like everything, like
we're winning the next major. That's
yeah,
what they
basically
said.
that's what they're saying to the whole community. And now, you know, obviously when they are going down, even, I mean, they're a team that's criticized for being top 5, you know, consistently.
Right.
That's it's a weird conversation if you put it in context, and they've been overly criticized, you know, because they're such an interesting team and we want to see the maximum potential of them, right? But yeah, I just think we have to be realistic with a team like this. 2 changes is a lot to reset culturally in a team. Everyone getting to know each other. I mean, essentially, if you have a new job and you go and meet the people in the office and start working for 2 months, you're not fully into it either, right? Like meeting everyone, knowing how everything works, the system. Who do I talk about X, Y, Z? Like all of these things with staff members, with how they, have meetings, how they structure, how they go through rounds, everything. There's so much they need to discuss and make sure there's a structure that makes sense, not only for the staff and the org, but also for the players, so that they can have a working relationship with PR and everything that goes on in a professional team.
I just wanted to add one more thing. Now that I think we've seen in the past that Carlos was a lot of the time the instigator in the changes in his teams when he saw that the results weren't enough. We were just not competing for titles. NAVI are fucking beating us in every final that we play against them. And a lot of the time, maybe people don't really realize this about G2, but Carlos was a lot of the time like the driving factor behind a lot of these changes. And you saw that, for example, like during the off season where he said something like, "I have a lot of thinking to do," when he saw G2 struggling so much, and just not really delivering the results that we expected of them. And now that he's not in that team, maybe there's not as much push, to make like drastic changes because okay, we fucked up, we didn't make it to the major. So that's also another factor to consider in this, where there's not going to be as much behind the scenes that pushes for these changes.
Prof, you got anything you want to put on the end of this, or we jump forward?
Yeah, I was just found it funny that Devilwalk is using like his example was work and jobs and stuff like that, as if anyone that watches this podcast ever worked a day in their life. Real company.
Aren't the people watching the podcast the people that should have jobs?
I don't know. Maybe they just love Counter-Strike.
Maybe everyone's.
Our audience is relatively old, I'd say, compared to like CS in general.
All right. Let's do this. Here we go. I'm going to speed through some of this here. So, Dimitri, follow me here. We're going to start with the logos underneath NAVI. That logo right there, put it in as expected. The one next to it, Infinity, it's expected.
Yep.
Aplano, expected. Sharks, where that's Isurus, expected. Isurus. Team 1, expected.
Not NAVI.
The one next,
NAVI.
Not NAVI, below NAVI. It was from Arctic left.
Yeah, put NAVI as took care of business. We'll come back to them later. You're fine with him.
There's the second row next to last, and then go left.
All right, hold up. Let me try again. Dimitri, where it says ATK, all right? See ATK? It's on the second row down on the end.
As expected, yes.
Yeah, whack them there. And then the one next to them. No. Yes. The one next to them.
You're so behind, Chad. I don't know what you're watching.
Because I'm watching on the stream over here. I can't fucking see the screen properly. So hold up.
Let me.
Yeah, you do it.
The blue Wolfie thing, as expected. Yep. Infinity, as expected. Oplano, as expected. The Sharky Boy, Shark Boy, and Lava Girl,
Team 1,
as expected.
And just to explain this, all these teams didn't make it through the Americas. RMR and Arctic and Infinity, I think, went out last. ATK went out 2-3, I think, and then Oplano went out. Yeah. Oplano and Isurus went out.
Then we can go to Team 1. This is like the VT thing. That's also as expected. And next to it is the nouns, the like sunglasses thing. As expected, I would say. They actually got a couple of wins and pushed Imperial like kind of okay. Yeah. So slightly better than expected, but I wouldn't say they impressed. And that then kind of covers the basic. I think Pain maybe on paper you would say the results wise that they were better and that should have beaten Imperial, but this is not going to happen. So I'd say also as expected. And then we can talk about these Brazilian teams that qualified, which is 00 Nation, Imperial, and FURIA.
Wait, I fucked up.
Yeah,
I made a mistake, guys. We got to run to an ad break. I told Dimitri would go run ads, and then instead I started doing the tier maker. So let's run some ads, and then we'll come back, and then we'll finish this off. Just say X, ads. Be right back.
The Xtrfy M42 RGB, what a fun mouse with 5 colorways, lightweight frame at just 59 grams with a swappable backplate to suit your grip style, the sensor, the easy core, the smooth skates, and driverless control for RGB and DPI is why you should check out the M42 RGB down below.
Buy and sell your skins now. Easy, fast, and safe. The best skin site. Credit card deposits and withdrawals. Instant cash out methods. Get the best deals. Quick, simple, reliable. Bitskins.com.
N1 Bet. Your bet, your game.
We're back. All right, we're gonna get back into this here. We're gonna be jumping back into this tier maker. So let's do this. Like Navi, we can leave in took care of business, right? It's they qualified to get a legend spot. All good. You can also put FaZe up there as well. We don't even need to spend a long time talking about these type of teams. We'll upset some of the fanboys. That's fine, but I really enjoy upsetting FaZe fanboys. It's my favorite
They
thing
did play
to do.
75,000 overtimes, which was interesting in itself.
Yeah, well, they got pushed, right? But they still took care of business. At the end of the day, they qualified, and all the teams that they beat ended up qualifying for the major. So that's pretty impressive in itself. So we can whack FaZe up there. Who else do we got here? We can let's go with
I think Liquid we can do took care of business as well. I think that's
Okay,
a really
yeah.
easy one because I mean everybody expected them to be at least the one of the 2-3-0 teams, if not like the team, the first team. So pretty expected. I would say Vitality maybe kind of either impressed, took care of business somewhere that along those lines too, because I think they were relatively.
I think took care of business because they won Pro League. If they hadn't have won Pro League, then and they had a good performance, I'd say impressed. But because they'd won Pro League, I think they were expected to then
kind of like
qualify.
expected-ish. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure, took care of business for them is fine because they won 3-1. Of course, that was the big loss was weird. I don't know how the fuck Big won that, to be honest. Even still,
Dearson and Tabson.
Yeah.
That's how. We can talk about Big now. Let's talk. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, is there anything from Vitality that stood out from like Pro League in this event in terms of are they like legit title
Devilwalk
contender?
thinks they're going to win the major.
I think they're one of these dark horse picks, I guess. Not a dark horse necessarily, but I think compared to last major, it was like a lot of the sentiment was like FaZe or NAVI is gonna win, and then maybe an ENCE thrown in there or yeah, or something like that. Well, this major, I feel like it's much more open. Like you maybe have a 20% advantage, like 20% for the favorite instead of like a 50-50. Where like I could see NIP doing it, I could see someone like MOUZ even doing it, who has impressed
Sorry,
me.
what?
What?
Yeah,
Fuck?
I think it's super open.
What do you
I
had to
think
drink
MOUZ,
today, mate? It's a Monday.
I had Trocca and coffee. That's it.
Okay.
But I think it's so open. Like even these favorites could lose to any top 10 team in the list right now. And if things work out like the right way in the bracket and stuff, I'm not saying they're favorites or anything. All I'm saying is I see a chance and a possibility of it compared to last major where I would see none of it.
Yeah,
that's my point.
Fair.
Not necessarily that you all should have MOUZ on top of the pick'ems. That's not my argument.
Okay. No, that's no, I can see that there in an event where anything can happen once we're in Brazil. Yeah, for sure. But let's do MOUZ. Let's use MOUZ as the lift-off point here. For me, the inexperience of the trio definitely showed, and the one that stood up was the most recent addition, Exertion. He had some cojones. He played Counter-Strike with some balls. torzsi in a pressure match, he disappeared.
Yep.
He definitely disappeared. So
talking about that Vertigo.
Yeah, with that series in general.
Oh,
He was pretty miserable in that series, and I thought they were going to get pipped at the post if they lost to Sangal. Right, I'm pretty sure when we did the last show, I gave Sangal a little bit of shine there, right? But that was not how that series. Like over that series, over 3 maps, torzsi went -15, 39 and 54, 0.81 rating.
That's
your
atrocious.
I was watching this game like closely, and I remember the first map. I can't remember.
Inferno.
It was Inferno, okay. I remember specking torzsi, and pretty much like there was like one of his deaths that was like he had a reasonable shot of actually getting a kill. He got like triple dinged by Mac 10s, like these like super weird kills where he just gets deleted every single turn. He comes in as a rotation, like when you come small pit and you peek that short and they just cross the default box and he gets like a lot of these moments where he didn't really have a chance or was like 1 second too late into a situation.
Do you think he was targeted, like anti-stratted, or was he just like?
I think he was targeted a little bit, but not like overly. I think everyone's targeted to some degree, you know, with how they're playing in a Counter-Strike match nowadays. But I think he was a little bit unlucky. If I like looked at that game, it looked like he was a little bit unlucky as well, not having a chance. And every time he tried to go for something, he got like, you know, triple naded or something like that. He had to back off, play like super defensive. So he never got to like, even in the early round, like kind of take ground or anything. He was always like pushed into a corner or behind smoke in a B retake, you know. So he didn't get that much opportunities.
I think that they're lucky that they qualified. They could have been 2-0 very easily in that series, especially like their own choice of Vertigo just went against them. So I would just put them in the took care of business column. I wouldn't put them in the column of anything outside of that. They didn't impress me. They weren't from left field. So I just put them in took care of business because they did qualify. It's the first major now for torzsi, JDC, and Exertion. So that's kind of a big deal. So is there any rebuttal in that? Would we just put them as expected?
I guess as expected, because it was far from you know, obvious that they would make it. So
they went
there was a lot of so I mean,
that's fine. We can whack them there. I like that. So as expected. What about I guess from there we'll just like leapfrog.
We can start
over
from kind of like the top, like
and we can take like Sangal now.
Yeah, let's do Sangal.
Yeah,
because they impressed.
Impressed, yes.
Yeah, I think that when you look at the parts of this team, a couple of the names people have definitely seen before, like Skrunk is the best example of all of that. Yep. But there was a couple of names here that like showed, okay, yeah, look, like Soulfly had some moments, you know.
Soulfly was really good, like really good. So he was getting entries. He was like ballsy on Vertigo. He'd like solo held A ramp like 5 rounds in a row, just getting entries on CT side for them. Like he was playing an amazing game.
Yeah. So I think we could just put them in impressed in terms of like one to look out for the future. The biggest thing that upset me about their poor run was the fact that ESL had packed up all of the practice rooms so they couldn't play their ESEA Advanced Grand Final in a best of 5, which was meant to follow that. That's the thing that probably upset the most about their unfortunate run. That one and they had to forfeit it. That really sucks. But yeah,
seems like some poor planning across the board. Let's say probably a lot of it on the team as well. If they like couldn't figure something out.
They probably pretty crushed either way after that loss to MOUZ because they really had that in the bag.
Yeah. I think that if they had the conversation with ESL, then the prac rooms could have likely set up for them to have played that match. I guess that didn't happen, but also the fact that ESL doesn't even know what's going on under their own roof is also a little bit concerning in a way. But yeah, that is what it is. So yeah, we'll leave them in impressed. All right. Does anybody else have a name they want to throw up into any of these categories here?
What do we think about an IP? That's a big one, I think.
I'd say from left field. Impressed.
I would say that. I would say that.
Yeah. That makes more sense.
Because we didn't know what to expect. We knew that this roster coming together, right? We spoke about what could be in both categories. What could be if everything went well, what if everything went wrong. We definitely got star power Hampus. Which was great.
Yeah.
That was his best event in fucking probably years even. That was crazy.
I was also impressed by Aleksib's fragging. I think he played really well. It was something that was a big topic when he was playing in G2, his fragging ability. And I think he had a little bit of a resurgence here. I think he played really well. Obviously, everyone remembers that Galil spray on Reddit, but in general, he played really good.
I don't have too much to say about NIP because I didn't cover off any of their games.
Right.
I can tell you like this. It started off. I'm watching the NIP game. You know, first game of the RMR. I see Res pick up the AWP. You know, first gun round, he dies. He never picks it up again. You know,
that was
like
Vertigo, right, or something.
Yeah, like he just the only time they would like. They would win like a weapon round. The Res is standing next to an AWP, and he just picks up the rifle and leaves. You know, like.
Yeah, that Vertigo against, it was the Vertigo against Bad News Eagles, right? That you're talking about, I think. Because I remember looking at his stats, I was like, oh shit, he's like 16 kills. What is he doing? And so I like skipped back through some of the rounds because I mean it's just like I saw okay, like 1 kill with the op, and it's just like rifle. So he just like carried the game just with rifles on the CT side, So that was funny.
We've discussed NIP before on the show, Devilwalk. I'd love to get your opinion. Do you like, because we've spoken about if everything goes right, like Rez, becomes a plucky AWPer, right? He's definitely mechanically skilled. He trains up, he becomes a good AWPer. Hampus can be the star rifler alongside of Brolin being aggressive. Aleksib now gets a bit more space to roam across the map, and then Esatag fill in the gaps here because he's the more supportive element of this team and maybe does some secondary AWPing and everything works, right? Or there's the time where Rez, doesn't get going with the AWP. Hampus, isn't it? Like, where do you put NIP? Like, they've played this one event. Their fans are going to overblow the performance because the job's done. But do you expect this team to be even remotely competitive coming forward?
I mean, I still have a lot of question marks, especially on that opening. Like, I think, I mean, I'm sure you've touched on this subject 20 times on this show. It's not really about what you gain; it's what you lose with Rez, And that's the question that imagine you can have an Hampus unlocked, a Rez unlocked on the rifle, and a good AWPer. Like that's you want to see the full potential, not a kind of silver tape build in some of the corners.
I don't know what that means.
These tape that looks silver. And kind of like
it's like a plaster. Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to see that in a corner. Just
holding everything together.
Now. Yeah. Like it's gonna wiggle every once in a while, and that's what's unfortunate. I want the stability and consistent NIP performing at this tournament.
And this has kind of been the rinse and repeat for NIP for the last 2 years, right? They've been chopping and changing players, whether that's either because of the device situation or not, right? Everything has changed consistently. And we always seem to come out of a break and it's like, okay, yeah, cool, NIP could be good. And then, something happens. And NIP is just a wait and see for me. So
the one thing that you can say is that I think that Aleksib move was a success. I think you can still establish that like a little bit. I see how they played. They seem very comfortable, like with how they're set up. And he's been playing really good. And especially with how much initiatives Hampus is taking on the aggression, like making a lot of moves, like and being a nuisance all over the map. If they can keep that for me is answered, that question through this RMR. I think it can work out fine with Aleksib. The only question remains is Rez gonna perform against big team AWPers, and what happens when like you were saying, they get in a situation they need an AWP to start opening up the map. What happens? How will they respond to that if he always prefers the rifle?
Especially because now other teams didn't know really what to expect. Like they had a bit of a sample size from Pro League, but not a real good test. Like they didn't even practice that. That was just
different in-game leader.
And new
really
in-game
hard
leader.
To for.
So when people start prepping for that, and then when they need this like figured out solution for some issues on the map, then it's gonna be different. It's a honeymoon phase, not to take too little, but not even to take too much from it either way. It's kind of a balanced approach here.
Yeah, I'm a little bit. I was gonna say that maybe Rez wasn't even expected to be the kind of an AWPer that's gonna be like opening up rounds and be more of like a stationary player who's just gonna play angles right a lot of the time, then take a lot of initiative. I am a little bit worried about how I think it was DJL who said that he expects Rez, or that he thinks Rez can be like
that was
a simple AWPer or something like that.
Do you think he wrote that?
I don't know who wrote that, but it was an interview, so I would assume it wasn't just like somebody putting words in his mouth or
it's gonna take a while though.
I mean, of course,
to get to that
but
point.
I'm saying from just the mindset perspective, right? Like I would understand if they wanted to make Hampus and Brolin the aggressive pieces who are just going to open up space for you. Hampus obviously like the massive X factor, and Brolin more like the stable aggressive piece rather than just like making plays all the time. It's just being a good player, a good solid player at the front in general. And then Rez is going to be the supportive style AWPer who's maybe occasionally go for picks, but it's not going to be
Liquid.
The problem or the expectation.
Yeah, it's a little Liquid-esque.
Like Liquid 2019.
Situation.
Yep.
And so that's what I would expect. But with this kind of expectation on Rez being, this is going to be an amazing AWPer, like we think he can actually be there. Like how much pressure is there on him to be that guy? So that's the question I kind of want to see answered, because I mean the NIP have been making it work without a proper AWPer reasonably well so far, and obviously they haven't really competed for titles, but at the same time they haven't been bad whatsoever. They've been one of the more consistent teams without a stable offer, you know. So I would have expected that to keep being the case.
I'll be
and then
surprised if
unlocking
they make
hampers.
the arena stage. Or
Okay.
if they make the, I'll be surprised if they make the champion stage, right?
Okay.
They could get close, but if they make it that deep, then they'll have impressed me.
Moving on.
Yeah, let's do this. I'm going to throw one your way here, Prof. 9Z, where are you whacking them?
9Z, I would say impressed. I wouldn't say from left field because they did it last time. We know who they are. They did have quite a few changes, and I didn't really expect them to make it through. Like there are a couple of teams between like the complexity. Who else that didn't make it through? Like Pain, that I would maybe put before, just based on results since the last RMR. But yeah, they did better. They are just like one of these teams that we can't really write off. DGT is pretty good. Like they're just a good team, and I feel like they could do similarly like last time. They can pick up an upset win at the major maybe, and then continue grinding. I don't know if they qualified for anything in Europe. I think they have the Fire League or something to play, so that's going to be a bit more experience
Spain,
as well.
Yeah.
Overall, I think just a good kind of mini surprise from the Americas region, probably the biggest one that we had.
Okay.
I have a question, a bit on the funny side. Who was the weirdest setup, you know, playing at in 9Z then?
No,
what's his
it was DGT, no?
It was DDT, the red detector, right?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was
it's
DGT,
insane.
Yeah,
But
when he's like
also-
everything is behind the monitor. He's like hugging the monitor.
Couldn't be closer. Trying to get
Actually,
inside
also
the monitor.
Also pretty funny is Biguzera, who has like, you know, everyone has like super close to the screen. This guy is like so laid back, and also the table is like raised max. So it just comparing the two screens, like this guy is like, his screen is here and the teammate is like here.
It's the classic Dosia when he didn't Dosia used to like come with a box to put this monitor on LAN?
Might be, yeah.
Might have been. I mean, that
Back
was
in
a
the
very
day
old.
before.
Yeah, that was a very old
someone
school
brought
solution.
a box. Some CIS player brought a box every LAN, like a wooden box that he just put his monitor on.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, that's when you had monitors that couldn't raise up, you know,
solutions.
CRTs and shit. Like you had no option other than doing that.
Let's jump into big. Where are we putting big? Anybody want to throw them in? Because if it was me, I'd be putting them impressed, and that's because Sirison played extremely well on.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and they also had Sin playing instead of Faven, so I'd say impressive to qualify. Like that's the thing. Like people are saying like, oh, no one expected Astralis to qualify, and big qualified with their academy player.
Yeah.
Of course, I think Sin probably a player that is more touted, more like a bigger talent than Mister, but still they made it through as a team that on paper is not on paper. Like they are a budget-wise smaller organization, right? They don't have the biggest names. They don't spend as much as Astralis do, even though Astralis don't maybe buy out players. Their salaries are much larger than bigs in general.
Who's playing the major? Do we know?
I mean, but it depends on what the situation with Faven is going to be. But it seems like, yeah, I mean, it seems like what's going on with Faven could be like a long-term issue. But I mean, they haven't really said a lot about that specifically. It was very clear leading up to the RMRs, you know, that this was going to be a long-term solution.
Did any one of you watch the big K23 game?
Yeah, I was casting it.
All right. So I was on the Go TV, so that's why I didn't know, Chad.
No, it's okay.
I was watching this game. I remember on Dust 2, where Sirison almost threw the entire game. I think they were up against like they were in an anti-eco situation that ended in a 1v1 situation. I think he lost it to reset themselves, where he had the long plant on Dust 2 long.
Against Raging?
And he did like a jump jiggle.
Yeah, against Raging. Yeah.
And it was such a terrible play. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like in the most high pressure situation, it was like a 99.9% one clutch, like, you know, almost down to the seconds. And he does it's such a weird decision, because he sees him in the first jiggle and then he jiggles instantly after and dies to the peak. Like it was so weird, and they could have lost the entire game just based on that round.
Yep. But you're framing it from that angle. We had it from Raging's POV. That's what the observer had it on. So Raging the entire time just looked like a fucking boss. Like spams the first guy through the center of the two side boxes. Dead. He was a god. Rajan was fucking sick. And I remember he was in Sviat's team, like ASG. I think they were AVE, then they rebranded to ASG last RMR. And I remember watching him then, and I was like, okay, these are just a bunch of, you know, Russian players, whatever. This time around, and especially in that series, like that round in mid Devilwalk, where he's fucking sitting halfway up the mid ramp and gets 3 kills with the fucking MP9. That
From
was
nowhere.
insane.
And it was like Big had taken long control and decided to go back in this anti-eco situation. It's like, why are you doing this? You had long control without them knowing you had long control, because you didn't flash out long either. You could have just gone.
Yeah. Sometimes this was actually something that I noticed with Big, and it's really hard to remember what match it was.
Man.
But they just, a lot of the time they just outthink themselves. Like you can tell that they just run fucking elaborate fakes that are like, I'm sure that they've thought it through and that they've worked on them like during practice, and like they understand what moves they're trying to force with these fakes. But sometimes just fucking go into the site and just like make it simple, you know. They just make it very hard for themselves sometimes with some of these ideas that they have. So sometimes just to simplify would do them a lot of good, I would say.
Yeah, I think that they have so much cool utility, and their approach can be really nice, and some really good strategies, like well thought out strategies. But then the firepower, it just isn't there because everybody's holding their dick and holding a grenade instead of, you know, shooting people in the head. So that can be the unfortunate fall off for Big. But now they've qualified. If Faven plays, I think there's a chance for them at the major to go for like a decent run. Yeah. If Sin plays, I didn't get to see enough, but he didn't impress me. Right? It was just Sirius and Tabson. There was 2 players on that team, and occasionally Keto jumped in, right? That was about it, right? What I was impressed by is the fact that Sirison played great on LAN. He was winning some big clutches. Maybe he lost that round that you were talking about there, Devilwalk, but otherwise he was good. And I think that's great. If they can keep him activated, that's really good signs.
He had a really good, like, it's super important on the other maps. Like, he was the one pushing them on Inferno and Dust 2. He still played really well on Dust 2 generally. He was definitely their best performers, I think, on Big, on Dust 2. But it was like in these anti-eco, weird decisions from Big, I felt like, in some key moments where, I mean, they should know they are the better team, but you know, they're playing like they are trying to, you know, like they're playing the best team in the world sometimes.
All right, let's get Dimitri. Can you move the next 3, Monty, Illuminar, and Fantasy? Move them all into as expected, and then we can jump into talking about. I guess we'll just keep going in order here. Outsiders. I feel like they like squeaked through.
I watched a lot of Outsiders as well.
It's the thing is, even though they just got through, like their last game against Falcons, they mauled them. That wasn't even a series, right? But the losses that Outsiders had before that, they lost to OG, they lost to NAVI, they beat Heroic, they beat Monty, right? So Outsiders played really hard teams. Yeah, I think so. I would say they took care of business, like for where they are.
I like that logic. Yeah, they never really looked in danger of actually going out.
Actually probably one of the hardest runs in all of the RMRs, if I look at it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Monty, obviously, you know, that's an easy start, but then Heroic, Navi, OG. And I mean, obviously, last round was Falcons, which is again one of those bottom half teams, but still not an easy run.
No,
okay,
at all.
How do you feel about Outsiders Devilwalk? Do you think they're going to have you know, be much better by the time we get around to the major in a couple of weeks' time, or do you think that they have their place and they can be threatening? What do you make of them overall?
I kind of see them just slightly worse than they were before. Like, you know, they're not the most exciting team maybe to watch at times, but every once in a while they play like perfect CS and everything just clicks and it looks so beautiful. But then other rounds, I just feel like I don't barely understand what's going on in the round. Like, why is this happening? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a odd one. I think that the more we get to see them, probably the better. Though.
But they're in my MOUZ kind of package. They still have a chance to do a few upset, create a chaotic bracket, and maybe have a luck out. You know.
Okay. All right. Let's whack in. We need to throw because we still need to do Skinionaire and the M1 moment here. So let's just keep whacking in some names. MIBR, Ecstatic, Aurora at the other end, Dimitri. That you can whack all of those in as expected.
Yeah.
Then at this point I
think MIBR, there was like a world where they would have had a chance, but I don't think it was always going to be that big. So not super out of the expectations. I think you're right.
Yeah, like I would have had them in a similar conversation as with like Pain, but Pain maybe gets like a step forward because of their performance in Melbourne, right?
Right.
But like so for Pain, it kind of sucks that they went out. Same with Complexity. I guess we could do Complexity. Whack Complexity.
Do
and
we
SADGE.
can we just do the Americas like last after we finish the EU, so we can like do chapters and the YouTube thing a bit easier?
Yeah. Okay. All right. You're thinking about the viewers in the future. All right. Let's stick with Heroic then. Took care of business as expected.
I'm trying to remember their run exactly. I mean,
They've
they
got
beat
a legend spot after beating Vitality and OG on that final day, right?
Yeah, for me,
just more-
took care of business fits more for like kind of the favorites, just doing what they needed to do, and I feel like that's what they did. I almost feel like outsiders should join MOUZ in the as expected kind of area, or we move MOUZ to the took care of business as well. However you.
But MOUZ, but MOUZ struggled beating bad teams.
Yeah.
Whereas outsiders lost to good teams and then owned bad teams.
Yeah, beat who they should have.
Then they're going Heroic up in the top for sure.
I
mean, looking at the
MOUZ
run,
didn't impress me.
Beat Saw easily, beat Sangal easily, and then lost to outsiders, and then beat Big. That was pretty easy series too, I think. No, 16-11, 16-12. Yeah.
And then they beat
They beat those two teams to qualify for the Legends.
Vitality and OG.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a fucking impressive run, especially including the Legends run. That's two solid teams, that you have to go over. So yeah, pretty impressive stuff overall.
Can we put K23 in impressed just because of Raging?
We can do that.
I think the
fact that
sides
they had
were actually really good on K23.
You like
I think
the
their
calling?
CT's side was really
Who's calling
bad.
for K23 now?
Finnegan.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think their T sides were solid.
So they impressed me.
I think we have HEET.
I mean, I thought they were a 0-3 team. To be honest, I didn't know much about them. They've always hovered around that, I don't know, rank 50-ish, maybe. Sometimes dropping down to the top 30, where you see them in the list. But I didn't really expect too much. I was impressed with obviously the guy I call Steam Guard.
Yes,
I think that's just the best. That's just the best name for him, I feel like. And obviously Radiant had a good series, but if they can work on their CT side, they could be a really good team, because they did a lot of mistakes on CT. They lost like stupid rounds and didn't look organized at all sometimes. So I think if they work on that, they could actually be a really good team.
Okay, so that's some good praise for K23. Whack HEET in as expected. Thor in as expected.
I almost feel like HEET and Falcons combined for like a SADGE category for. It's just like the combination.
Why? What makes you sad?
That neither of them had a chance.
That neither of them went through, and like just the
they
implications.
didn't even have a chance. Like if you think about it, like HEET, lost obviously the Falcons in that 1-3 game, and then...
It is as expected. I feel like HEET, I did not expect to go through. I think after Pro League, I was like not really sold on the team doing much. Falcons maybe a bit more, but it's just a combination of the two of them. Is kind of a feels bad, man, for me. That.
You want the best out of both teams.
You want something to come together to like have a competitive team, but it's they're just not there, right?
Well, let's make it. What would you pick?
Ooh,
you got both teams right now.
Let's
Masuda, 100%. You want body or MBK? You can only have one.
I'll take MBK.
Yeah, I would start back MBK too.
I didn't watch much of Falcons. I don't know how they're
MBK underestimated. He's been playing like pretty okay in the
the body's good as well.
But the question is, calling wise, who's calling better? For me, like what I saw from HEET, I kind of like how they play as a team, but I just feel like they lack a good player or two, like just individual firepower. I feel like is lacking. So maybe I would build on HEET rather than on Falcons. I just don't know. I didn't watch Falcons enough to make that judgment call.
All right, it'll take too long for us to make a fucking dream French roster anyway.
Yeah. So I'm just saying
we'll save that for another day.
Hopefully by Paris there's like
it's an interesting thought, at least.
There's a better match of these teams essentially.
And maybe will be.
Chat can help us out and send their best out of the.
They do some great suggestions, so they'll probably make a forum thread about this at some point. They'll make it'll be titled "Devilwalk, come here," and then inside it'll say "Devilwalk, thank you for coming,"
and then just a bunch of links I can click. Nothing else.
That'll be it. All right. So
very dangerous those threads.
Yeah, those are dangerous.
Put Saw in as expected. I love how Portuguese fans
Yeah,
are
yeah.
in here before. You're sleeping on Saw. Were we?
Why is no one
Were we-
talking about
were we,
so?
were we sleeping on Saw? All right, OG.
I think it
OG,
started well.
man.
Didn't it start well and then kind of
Yeah, but I still don't
whimpered
even
out
know
a
what
bit?
to make of these guys,
Who
man.
we're talking about now?
OG.
OG?
They beat.
OG.
This is
So
who
yeah,
they beat.
they lost to MOUZ, beat
They-
Luminar, beat
Luminar
Falcons, beat
Falcons.
and then Outsiders. Yeah,
They only
this
had to
is
be
not impressive at all.
no.
not very.
Impressive.
So they qualified.
As expected for me, yeah. Just
Yeah,
But
I mean,
just-
they were among the teams that we thought were going to be somewhere on the edge, right? Like if maybe potentially like missing out, but like probably going through. So I would say as expected, kind of.
Yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
too impressive, nothing too bad. You know, they just beat whoever they were supposed to beat.
Falcons, same shit. Falcons,
Yeah.
for sure.
ENCE impressed.
ENCE definitely impressed. Yep.
Valda and Sampaius played well.
Also, like you have to consider they didn't have the hardest route, but you know they beat kind of like everybody who they met, right? So
Yeah, but they
like it's
sucked
what
during Pro League. That's
Yeah,
why
that's-
they
that
impressed.
is-
Did they
fair, but
really
it's-
suck?
Yeah, they did.
though?
Here we go, Madden.
did.
Official Madden defender.
Yeah.
Jonathan Devilwalk.
I thought they were
Lundberg.
pretty close maps, and it's like one of these things in CS. You know, they just had a few weeks to play together.
But
you
that's
know,
why they impressed me.
understand. Like why they are making these losses, you know, so early on with the roster. Completely understandable to me.
They
Coming
lost
in now,
2-0
they got
to everybody besides Heat.
that's
Yeah.
fine as long as you win the next one.
Yeah, but that's why I'm impressed. That's why
Yeah.
I'm impressed now is because they didn't
They
seem
did.
like they had their
Yeah.
act together at Pro League, and they
That's
got their
fair.
act together here. So that's why they
That's fair,
impressed
yeah.
me because they set the bar so low after Pro League that it was easy to impress me. You
It's
see?
one of those things, you know, you need that kind of first test. You know it's yourself, Chad. Like you can talk in theory, you can play all the practices, everything is going well, but once you get into the game, some of those strats are not going to work, even though you thought they did, and you're going to have to restructure things, and you figure out why they don't work because these teams are actually punishing you for leaving those kinds of gaps. I think they adjusted well, and you know, kind of, it was probably a blessing in disguise that they lost so many games. They had so much material to study to actually make a good run for the RMR.
So essentially, losing is actually good. Is what
It is good because you figure you gain multiple things. First, you know how they approach like the demo checking against you. But what they figure out, how their thought process is
Right.
when they're anti-stratting, and you will fix those gaps, and you gain an understanding of their thinking, right?
Yes. Well,
But you can use that in so many ways, and it's a perfect opportunity to kind of get that knowledge in before other teams start figuring out, oh fuck, they're in our heads, you know.
I think that the thing is with the new roster coming together out of the break, right? This is where you look at the contrast. G2 went 5-0 and ENCE won one series. One of them's at the major and one of them's not at the major. And both teams changed 2 players, right?
Yes, G2 won 10 maps and
losing
ENCE
is
won
good.
2.
As devil, losing
Losing is the blessing.
Yeah. Someone has made the thread Devilwalk come here. So I'm just going to put that there now if you guys want to go take a look at that. Okay. What else can we throw in here? Let's whack. We're saving EG, Zero Nation, Imperial,
Let's go to
FURIA.
Bait.
Okay, Bait. We got to put him impressed. Captain bloody Kirk, mate. How can you not be impressed? How can you? They had a great crack, right? They were competitive throughout. They were like, to me, they were just a bunch of Ukrainian players, and now they're still just
Super
a bunch
impressed.
of Ukrainian players, but they played well. So I think they have to be put in the impressed column. But maybe we put him out of left field.
Yeah,
We
that's
never
more
expected them to have a
correct.
chance. Yeah, true.
Yeah. Okay. Put him in out of left field.
And they
People
could
actually.
They could
People
have been the only full Ukrainian team to qualify to a major.
Oh.
Ever?
Oh. Okay.
They were
People
very
people actually confused about from left field, but then chat from what I noticed. But it essentially just means, you know,
We
were
kind of
on him
surprised,
right?
something you didn't consider happening at all. Like
Yeah.
impressed is like someone you had some expectations, but they like surpassed it by a bit. And from left field is like completely
Out of left field.
yeah, completely out of left field, as they say.
I think that maybe this is terminology. I need to start refining it a little bit better in the future because I
I
use
think it's just more of a phrase that not all like you have to have a certain level of understanding of English, to come across a phrase, like this. So I think it's fine.
College level.
Yeah, well,
Giga brains here.
out of left
allowed
field
only.
is American slang meaning unexpected, odd, or strange. The phrase came from baseball terminology referring to a play in which the ball is thrown from the area covered by the left fielder to either home plate or first base, surprising the runner.
Oh,
There we
great.
go.
And
that's a
now
lot of terminology that we
when
don't
you say
understand.
I had no idea.
I
had
understand
no idea.
everything.
We've got the etymology now, at least. Okay.
GG.
What else we got? No, we're doing. We're saving them. We're doing all the Euros right now.
Okay.
Spirit impressed.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember.
They
I
made a
have no
legend
fucking
spot by
clue. I
beating
mean, yeah,
Cloud9.
but I'm just trying to remember.
No,
Who
they
they beat
Did
before
they
that.
beat Cloud9?
Impressed.
I completely missed this.
Oh yeah, at the end for the legend spot.
Yeah. It was a 2-1. They won 16-8 on Vertigo and 16-13 on Ancient. And that's why I like Spirit, because they like fun maps.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't super
Define
impressive.
fun.
Anything that's not Dust 2, Mirage, or
I'm just
Overpass.
joking. Okay, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's not.
It wasn't super
let's not
impressive at
allow any
first.
Mirage
I actually thought
slander.
watching Spirit at first, I actually thought they were never going to make it because, there was that GamerLegion series where GamerLegion just massively choked another lead. The not series, but the map on Ancient, where like Spirit just should never have had a chance. But there was like fucking 2v4 3 times in that in the last 10 rounds that were played in that game or something. Like Spirit had no business winning that game. Before that, they lost to Sprout, only beat 1 win. I thought this is not a team that's going to make it to the major. So to turn it around from there, beating Bad News Eagles in what was, I think, a pretty one-sided game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And then, that Cloud9 win at the end to top it up for a legend spot. I think that's a really impressive recovery from how they looked at the beginning.
And every team that they played, bar 1 win, are in the major.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah.
So that's
That is
not
actually,
bad.
yeah, that's a good way of looking at it for sure.
And it's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah,
That's something that people kind of have to pay attention to a little bit more when they talk about like how hard a team's route was. Like they never pay attention to who actually qualified or what their score was, or like, oh, this is like a bunch of random teams, that we didn't have a lot of expectations for. But I mean, look at how
maybe
they actually did
HLTV should do a content piece after every RMR that is who had the toughest route.
Okay.
Here we go. Harry, let's go.
I mean, technically, you can easily determine that by their final difficulty score, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
that's exactly what it is.
That is easy for you, not for our
Yeah,
readers.
I don't know this.
Yeah, I didn't actually look at the scores specifically, so I don't know exactly. But there was a few who met some really fucking tough opposition.
Yeah. What's next? Bad News Eagles.
Yeah. Can we put them, because where do you put
borderline somehow?
Okay, what's the
it's
borderline?
Like, it's kind of impressive, but it's also expected, I feel like.
But I'm a little bit disappointed in B. I thought they would qualify earlier.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
I know like the spirits.
I thought I think they could have given NIP a run for the money.
Right.
I thought they played very slow. They were a bit too slow. Like the B&E we saw like last major in and the RMRs, they were just guns blazing, full pressure, running against their opponents, and they had a much different style that was very slow, this RMR, in comparison. They didn't at all...
But at least now there's a second page in the strat book.
Yes, I agree. It's the right step to take, but it felt a little bit like some of the games, they could have had a bigger chance if they went a little bit more guns blazing when they needed. It looked a little bit too grouping, throwing smokes, kind of going into the blender for them, getting red a little bit too easy at times. I'm sure because they're not used to that kind of system. But it's definitely the right direction, and it's something that they need to develop their playbook and become a more established team. But I want to see more of a mix where they can go guns blazing and kind of do that outsider style where they pause, they make things awkward for the opponent, and then be explosive again at some point in the round instead of this complete change in direction.
I think come Challenger Legend stage obviously have a crowd now as well, and it's a sizable crowd. I think that their aggressive play style, if they're versing like on that type of an environment, if it is loud and it's pumping and they're on that stage, I think their type of play style will actually help them. Because we saw some chokes from teams who are on the cusp of qualifying for majors who are much better and should have been able to close. The MOUZ Sangal game is a perfect example, right? They should have been able to close. But I think if the MOUZ just played some more disrespectful type of Counter-Strike and just shot them in the head, they probably would have closed a bit earlier. Whereas like BNE playing against teams who are going to try and play that way and maybe they're nervous on a stage or whatever, like people have shown the experience factor for us at an event like this. I think BNE in that environment can do pretty well. And in terms of where to place them, I actually would have even argued to put them on from left field. And that's not because they didn't impress me by qualifying. It's because I think last time round, the consensus from the community, and I'm not just talking for myself here, I think an overwhelming feeling from most was they fluked it, right? Like they had a good run, they fluked it, they made it. Okay, cool. Can they do it again? They did it again. You do it twice without an organization. Now it's impressive. Now, and that's why I think from out of left field is because sure they did it last time, but did we really think like they were going to do it again? Did anybody here really think that they were going to qualify again? 100%.
Not a 100%.
No, I thought they would have a chance, but they definitely didn't expect them to.
It's all depending on what matchups you get. I mean, you could get like if I'm BNE, some teams will give you a lot of space where you can get a lot of free ground compared to other play styles, which will challenge you completely. I think BNE were a question of when if they play the right team, it's like when they played Astralis, at the right time playing them pretty much destroyed them, right? They won like 16-3 or something like there wasn't even an opportunity, right? So and there's a lot of teams that are in this kind of weird scenario where we don't really know where we have them, what kind of moves should they make, what should they go for, what is the problem in the team. They've been trying for a long time, so I think they being here it's like a great position to be in, because there's a lot of like pressure on a lot of teams to improve, and when you have a lot of pressure like that, maybe even you make a lot of destructive changes to your playstyle, even because of that amount of pressure on your shoulders.
Too much too fast.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're starting to remove good bits from your play instead of adding.
I want to use this BNE team, by the way, just and Imperial when we get to talking about them as the examples for why for some teams it's actually probably more beneficial not being in the circuit. If you want to go around and play all the tournaments and be away all year, or you can play in smaller tournaments and grind and like actually put in some hard yards and maybe playing the odd one here, there, and everywhere and not have the same pressure and not have the same schedule and then still qualify for the major and then still get your major stickers and then still make your oodles of dollars. I'd fucking take that one every day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, if more or less what we've been talking about is like qualifying for the major is $1 million in sticker money.
Yeah, if not more.
They did it now twice. Like they won more than some of these teams that have been playing CCTs, Pineapple Cups in like 5 years.
Yep.
That have been playing, that have like 150 matches played in a year, or 200, 300 maps, or I don't know what. So they've been killing it when you think of it. So fucking amazing for them. I don't know where to put them. Like all of these categories kind of fit, but it's I think impressed overall it's fair.
I'm still impressed, but I wanted them to go guns blazing more. I wanted to see that classic BNE style.
Let's go impressed, because they did it in back-to-back, right? We'll whack them in there.
Yeah, it's super impressive. Like you cannot squander that.
Yeah.
Like
what about one win?
I mean,
this is a weird one.
This
is a weird one.
What was the other one?
But
let's actually look at that.
Yeah, lost
they
to
beat
Spirits,
G2.
beat forZe, beat G2, and then lost to Cloud9 and Fnatic. Pretty rough run, I have to say.
I feel like
really
that's a good run for them. Unfortunate draw in terms of when you.
That is a very tough run.
That is a really difficult run for sure.
Spirit, forZe, G2, Cloud9, and Fnatic.
Yeah,
that's not a fun RMR. They get 2 wins out of that.
Yeah.
You have to say impressed then.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's definitely
in a way
the fact that they still
from left field though.
In a way,
yeah, okay, yeah, all right. But I'm still impressed looking at these results. That's very tough.
Prof out here saying it's SADGE. Why? Because they had hard opponents.
Yeah, it's SADGE that they didn't make it through, considering like how they played.
You're making it.
It's like inverse of G2's.
Well, look, I'll give them from left field here, because we didn't expect anything from them.
No, that's true.
No, not really.
And they didn't really impress me, but they did get a couple of wins.
I mean, somewhere Demps is fucking furious that we didn't expect anything from Deco.
There was a hype article before the RMR.
That's
Wasn't
what
there?
I'm talking about.
Oh
exactly.
shit! What
yeah.
about this, boys? I've solved it. Deco to NIP.
There you go.
Thing is, if
They can
they're
keep
international
speaking
now, they can get KDs. They can get, you know, whatever,
What
whoever,
about Deco?
whenever, wherever.
He's got cool
Maybe
hair.
they will meant to be together. Who knows?
Whenever, wherever. Okay, you need to sing it next time. People will get it at home then, or maybe they don't know. Is that Chris
yeah,
Agnew?
Maybe I
just
should. I
went
don't think I
completely
should
over
sing
my
it.
head.
The weirdest part, when you write Deco in the HLTV, there's a Swedish Deco comes up.
And there's Acerus Deco with a C as well.
Yeah, well, someone in chat just reminded us that we had the largest shirts to fill. That is from ASD Aero.
That's
right.
very true.
Yeah.
And they
They
also
had a
got.
private jet.
Someone also said they got 2 wins, so their name is misleading.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah. Okay, let's keep smashing through. We're already 2 hours in, boys. We're already 2 hours in.
Let's keep going.
Sprout, I think impressed.
Yeah,
That's
very
good.
impressed. Very, very impressed for
It
sure.
was
I mean, we were
in game leading, right?
yeah. I mean, we were talking about this team being really like
Stacked
a
and
bunch of
talented.
young hotshots, basically. Like that's we could crumble under this pressure, but at the same time, have shown enough that they have the talent. So I think that's amazing. I mean, pretty fucking sick. I mean,
Can we credit Barry for building this team as well?
I would
He's
say
been
so,
there.
Yeah, I mean, Sprout management in general has been really good at scouting. So definitely some to him, some to the rest of the team, the org that is pulling the plug.
It's impressive. Barry
Sprout
keeps doing it. He just keeps
Sprout is
doing it.
great at scouting fucking Danish talent.
Oh dear.
Maybe Astralis should take some hits.
Now, I want to sink more time into talking about Sprout, but the thing is, I didn't do any of their games. So I was expecting good stuff from the Danish trio, right? Where I've seen Stair before.
Maybe
I know
we
the Siphon's
can-
good. Go
when
on
we
it later.
preview the major, like in 10 days or something, try to do a bit more when we have more time to look into them and how they did.
Okay. Let's quickly throw these last couple in. GamerLegion, we have to throw them into impressed. Maybe
yeah,
even
sure.
maybe
of
even
course.
Both left field and impressed.
Yeah. I think the most impressive part about it is how they looked like they were going to choke it out, and then finally, got it over the line, even despite the fucking horror that they went through before that, because it was like 7 match points that they had on FaZe. The second, what was it, Spirit, that they just lost fucking unbelievable situations in that match on Ancient, where they lost in overtime again and they still qualify despite all that. I think that's, even if.
And the caller is an old MOUZ NXT player, right?
Oh yeah.
Shuey.
Shuey is a very, very impressive guy for sure.
Can I just want
Acor is obviously the big storyline. Go ahead.
I hope this guy's
Terminator.
joking. I shouldn't read chat. It just I'm too irritated. I'm tired after 6 weeks worth of work. Clincy. So Sponge doesn't watch games. He doesn't cast. No, I physically can't watch the other games.
It
while
was
I'm casting
impossible
them.
to keep up with
How
everything.
do you not watch
I think he
one
should go
screen?
back, look at the schedule, and see how it is physically possible for him to do that.
Literally, we could watch all these games from now until the major, and we probably wouldn't catch up. Like, that's how difficult it is. Like, it's impossisible. Like,
Man.
there were just like 3 series going on at the same time
Honestly,
during the entire
Chad,
week and more.
Just put on the B stream on another
I'm
screen
casting,
and
yeah.
watch while you're casting.
Yeah, but you're not gonna get the details.
Give me solutions,
You
not
know.
problems.
Yeah, you're right. I should have had more monitors up. I should have actually casted all 3 series simultaneously.
at the same time. Yeah.
That would
But
have
wait,
saved
here we
a
go to
lot of
game
problems.
3.
Multicast.
Okay. Well, we know they impressed, but the return of Acor, that was exciting.
I actually feel they fit more from left field. Like it's kind of a shocker.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Move him down,
let's
Dimitri. Let's
put him
bring him
there.
down. Well, I want to talk more about him here, but I want to also give them more credit. So maybe when we have more time in the future. GamerLegion. Sorry, Dimitri. Okay.
Yeah,
forZe.
put them down to the left field.
Put forZe in SADGE. They're a bunch of chokers. It's sad.
Wow.
That's
Come
a
on,
bit
man.
harsh, man.
Come on, man.
But
Look at the
They're-
advantages they had in these
it
games.
seems like it is the Factos and the Bombas of,
It might be
of
harsh,
everything.
but it's true.
I think
They are a
they
very
have
young squad, aren't they?
13-4 or something against BNE. I was looking up the scores. I'm like, this is it. It's done. And then it went to the third map, and then they lost.
Well,
Yeah, I mean they should have closed this out 2-0 against BNE. They had an 11-4 half on Ancient on CT, and I mean they won like I think an eco after first gun round on their T side to make it 12-7, and I think they should have gotten like control over the game at that point. but
They
they
also had
just
11.
struggled.
They also had in the opening game 11-4 on T side of Inferno against Sprout. That
They had multiple games
choked
where they
out.
had big leads and
Oh.
choked. It wasn't
Oh,
just the
okay.
one series, right? So
I didn't
they
follow every game. So.
Everyone hates chokers, unfortunately.
yeah, they lost to one win as well. Like, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they were leading in that series as well at some point. It wasn't that
Let's
big of a lead.
check.
Yeah, but fucking hell. There wasn't that big of a victory, but still dropped the ball there.
11-6 that they had there.
Yeah.
Also pretty big.
But I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, I think Jerry's a fun leader, but and the
Giga
players are cool.
Sedge. Giga Sedge.
So that's why I've got him in SADGE, because I want Jerry to do well. I like the look of Xtrfy. You know, I think Zorti's all right. You know, they seem like a young team who are all on the same page. They just need to mentally get a bit of resilience there. Maybe put them and the MOUZ boys in a bit of a room and they can have a conversation. I don't know who they talk to.
Eternal
but
Fire.
Put
And
them in
I-
SADGE.
SADGE
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
mega SADGE actually.
Uh,
Especially how everything ended, honestly.
For me, this decision to kick my major after 3 months, 2.5 months, absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Terrible roster move.
Emor will now IGL. That is what has been said.
Oh,
Immoral Paz should have
Really?
been the players replaced.
I don't.
They should have
Yes,
kept
it's in-
Zentaras, they should have kept Woxic, and they should have kept Major, and then they should have probably picked up this fucking Soulfly guy.
Yeah,
and then
Yeah,
they should have brought back
Soulfly.
Xflout. The fact that Immor and Paz are still on that team. Did anybody watch the games?
Paz
the
has been
players-
struggling a lot. Like when I'm watching him, he does. But it might be one of these things. Like, was he playing before he joined this roster? I felt like he was like almost retired or something,
I
and
feel
then
like
he
he
just
was
came
out,
back
no?
or something.
He was kind of off the radar for sure. So for me, I feel like that's a very bad decision, considering how
Terrible decision.
Xantaras and Woxic's performance since Major came back have been fucking great. They did online, they had some good results before Pro League. They qualified for a couple of tournaments. They qualified for Pro League. Like, they played in Pro League. They almost made it through to playoffs. Like, they were in contention there. There was a chance for them to make it through. They didn't in the end. They come here. They also lost against some good teams, some maybe not so good teams. I feel like it's a new roster. It's like we're just talking about G2. Like, they ended up with the same result as G2, except G2 spent like $2 million in the last 2 years, and these guys spent like 200,000 maybe.
Yeah.
Like, but it's for me, it's such a bad move, honestly.
Yeah. Agreed.
I'm not crazy. Paz was in Valorant for like half a year
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh,
before
So-
he came back.
I feel Major, he wasn't even like a individually bad IGL. Like,
No.
he also came back from Valorant individually. He was pretty okay for an IGL. Like, so I agree. Like, should have to be like passing more the players that you look at if you want to make a change, even. But you probably want to. But
but it's also in the manner that they do it. It's like
One
so
day.
close to them losing. They're probably still at the event, every one
Yeah.
of them.
One
Like,
day after.
and they released that he's kicked. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a reasonable time frame to make a
This kind of a
logical,
decision, yeah.
decision in
Yeah.
this space of time. You can't be, this seems like an emotional decision, a blame game, probably some drama within the team. Like,
Yeah, probably.
it was your fault. No, your fault. This is how we should do it. Like, it feels like that kind of situation. I don't know anything about it.
I mean,
Like,
Major
I
said,
don't. I just think that why would they just kick him like that while they're at the event if some kind of internal conflict did not occur?
I mean, from the Major to it longer, it definitely seemed like there was some internal issues, because he said like they see me as the problem. I didn't think that was the problem, or there's definitely like
yeah, he
pretty
took
clear.
some blame for it, but it's like kicking me is not going to solve the issues.
Yeah.
It's like I made some mistakes. Maybe I didn't call perfectly, all of these things, but this is not the way I think we would get better. And maybe a part of it was like he wanted someone else to go out, or someone else to change their play style, or
Yeah.
maybe he thought, what we are saying, maybe more needs to go, and the other players didn't agree, and therefore it's, then you're out of the team.
Yeah.
Which is
so,
insane.
Yeah.
Like, even the
Just the
Turkish
power
fan
struggle,
base, right? The Turkish fan base, because I saw the news and I retweeted and I just wrote, what? And then I was getting people having chats in my replies, and even the
Classic.
Turkish fan base was like, this is bad. Like, why have they done this, right? And it has to be one of the worst roster moves in a while, like, especially from a team that showed promise during Pro League. It's like, you had a couple of rough
Why
series.
are you going through these months if you're not, like, you've just gone past the difficult time of the team? Like this is when you start to see improvement, when you start to get things to click, when you get protocols, you start updating to your game and start reviewing all of your losses and can make a big improvement in a short amount of time. Because like you can take the example of what we discussed with ENCE, take these losses and actually make something great with it instead of just like resetting the project again.
Yeah, they fucked up massively here. So part of me, because I hate it when an in-game leader gets replaced in this fashion, wants it to come back and bite them in the ass. But I'm not that much of a vindictive human, and I'm also not invested in the team at all. So really, who gives a fuck? But
I mean, I hope he comes back.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen. I wouldn't come back. I wouldn't come back. You get broken up with your ex a couple times. You're not going back a third or fourth time. You go back the second time. Everyone's dumb enough to go back the second time. You remember the crazy nights. But no one's going back a third time. You have to be delusional or have no other options. So, yeah, hopefully Magic gets a couple of other options. Okay. Cloud9, as expected.
Took care of business. Yeah,
but didn't get a legend spot. So
yeah, that's a bit rough.
Do we give them took care of business?
I mean, I'm just looking at beat Bait, beat G2, lost to Nip, lost to Spirits. Yeah, beat
lost
1-1
to Nip.
Yeah, that was a big one for sure.
Just putting that out there for everybody. The team which is meant to have like absolute best fundamentals in Counter-Strike and have one of the best AWPers and one of the best riflers, probably shouldn't be losing to a team that's just come together. But as I say that, it's a very prep heavy team and there's no homework you can do, right? So I guess they had a live exam. There was no study available. So that's what happens. Here's the meta. If you want to beat Cloud9, just change a player.
Yeah, I mean, we probably should have had like one more category for the teams that just made it, but didn't make it as convincing as they probably should have.
But that's as expected, I guess, right?
I guess more or less as expected. Yeah.
Last one here, Fnatic.
Impressed, I would say. I mean, it was like the same category.
I expected them to go through because I was impressed with how they approached the game and how like they look quite consistent in the way they play.
I think they play good CS.
And I couldn't really see like before the event a world where this play style didn't make it through. That's how I felt about it because I think they are much better than what the rankings say right now. Like they're performing on a higher level than their current rank. Therefore, I expected them to go through, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, they obviously didn't beat any big names. They beat Aurora and Fire and one win to qualify, but they also had that overtime against FaZe and lost to B8. I mean, that's probably the only thing that you can fault them for, really. Just seemed very comfortable, for them in those wins.
Yeah, so we just I think as expected because of the B8 loss.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right, now, Prof, we're going to jump into the NA category for you here. And this
Want to start with the N1 moment, maybe, and then we work from that?
Let's start there. Dimitri, are you ready? We'll give you a bit of a lead-in, but I think a lot of people at home could probably predict what the N1 moment is going to be for this week. It was the match last night that had everybody on the edge of their seats. And this is only the qualifier for the major. It was one of the most hype matches of Counter-Strike just based on the context of all of this and the entire Counter-Strike community, at least the hardcores, tuning in for all of this here. And drum roll, please. Of course, it was Imperial qualifying over Complexity. Look, SADGE for Complexity, but fantastic for Brazilian Counter-Strike. Here's the moment. I'm sure you guys at home can hear this. But this was crazy, right? The response to this, the tears, the emotions, everything that this meant, especially the fact that what this team has been able to create in their legacy, Fallen Fur, bolts in the start of that.
I didn't notice the guy just throwing the flag in the middle of the team as they were celebrating. That's funny.
It's great though, right? Like this is the raw emotion. The person who had the best seat in the house for this match was FNX. He's up front and center. He got to catch all of it.
It literally does feel, honestly, that is what his job is. Literally just watch them. I did not see him speak at one point during this tournament.
There was some kind of Reddit thread where he was like during a timeout, he had a mic above him or something.
He just didn't have it down even.
I thought it was like, look, even just having his aura there is enough. Fine, it works.
FNX no major, yeah.
But he's a beautiful man, right? I'd get it. They get him behind, right? Why not, right? So I think you. Come on, Prof, get your mind out of the fucking gutter, mate. We're obviously talking about in this setup here. Jesus, Joseph, and Bloody Mary. But
Yeah,
look,
I'm the problem. Yeah.
look,
You're a
they
kid, man.
they qualified, right? This is the M1 moment. This is the highlight for the week. But this means a lot for the region, and it obviously means a lot for the players, right? We've heard about it. Again, Imperial. I didn't think they were going to qualify, to be honest.
But it's also in the fact, in the manner that, you know, this last game was like, it was an incredibly like tight game. I was
Oh, yeah.
sweating watching it, even though I don't really have anything, you know, committed into this game or anything. But I was warm in my clothes. Let me tell you that. Like, it was like crazy moment after crazy moment. It wasn't like one of these, oh, they are in a 5v2, oh, they will win it for sure. I go make some
No.
drink or something. It was like everything, like a comeback, and it's like, how did they lose that? What happened? You know, like, it was
Yeah, I mean,
crazy from every moment.
Yeah, it like started out with those fang clutches, and then Fallen started taking over in like some of those situations, you know, where it's just like alone and fucking overpass short and just like surrounded from every corner, and it's just like he somehow pulls 3 kills out of a hat.
Yeah,
So,
and
like,
then you
a
had
lot
like
of these
Cello
moments.
25 kills, and the
Yeah.
next best had like 5, and the rest of the team are just sitting there, and Cello taking double entry
Cheering him
every
on, yeah.
single round on T side A against, you know, where he shouldn't be able to take early entries at least.
But that shows that Imperial's intent, like, clear, right? Because when they first came together, we thought this team is just here to sell jerseys, and then they obviously pulled it off last time round when we were all watching back in Antwerp, and then this time round, right, to get the
That's what
qualifier.
FNX is there for.
Well, yeah, but like I think about it. I think about it from the angle that they added Cello to bring the firepower, and they got exactly what they wanted. They got exactly what they wanted from this kid.
Yeah.
And Yanko made a tweet about it, talking about like back in 2017. And I heard all the same like prophecies, right? Like when Cello was brought in, he was meant to be the second coming of coldzera and all this, that, and the other. And we hadn't really, it'd been okay, right? It had his, and right now we're still just basing this in this tournament here, really. But he's, I guess, being allowed to be the star of the team, which is good. You know, he's going to be given that room. They're going to prop him up. They understand this situation. So, yeah, look, it's massive for Counter-Strike for Imperial to be at the Rio Major. It's like their home event. They'll be playing in front of a crowd during the Challenger and or Legend stage and or Champion stage if they continue to pull off this miracle run, because I guess anything's possible. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what this is showing us. Anything is possible. If you want it enough, they did it.
I think they
that-
played 10 times better now than they did at the major last time. I honestly believe they play so much better Counter-Strike. There were some moments on that overpass where I thought they were going for quite an interesting approach, where basically like almost every round, like around like the 45, 50 second mark, they would go for this like full nade execute into the B site, and you see Complexity panicking, throwing all their nades away. And then there's just Imperial just sitting there with 0 nades left and just sneaking around, waiting for the timing to go into different sites.
Yeah.
So they're just like slowing things down. They don't have any nades left. And Complexity is throwing every counter utility they can. And it's just like a raw duel kind of a game after a while, which I thought it was interesting. I haven't seen many teams go for that kind of approach for a T side.
I think
They've been just fucking amazing in terms of like the feeling around the team was always that they were going to qualify. Like I had no doubt in my mind that they were going to get through. It doesn't matter what game, who they're playing. Some of these maps and rounds came like super close. They played team 1, it was close, and then the same story repeated in the Complexity game as well. They're there. They might be the better team. Pain might be the better team on paper, Complexity. But then the match gets drawn out. It gets to like a 13-13. And then the smaller team, the less experienced team, they fuck something up. They crumble under the pressure, and it starts getting to like one player to another player. Like MOUZ had team 1, when they were like close on overpass as well, they just threw an anti-eco literally like against Glocks and like won the eagle, over-aggressing, not trading. It's just like, what is happening? How did that team that's been so close just like lose it in the key moment? And it kind of repeated throughout the last 3 series that they played. And in a way, this is what they are good at. And this is not like they fluked it. This is the experienced team, not going to crumble, just going to be there in the game, rely on some big moments from Fur was really amazing throughout the tournament. His form since he joined this team, I think that's the number one surprise for me, that he was able to return to that level. Like that's insane. Fallen also obviously inspired at this event to get back to the major. Like the way he has been playing, Insane and Cello there is like it's a great combo. Just like the storyline that everyone wanted in the end came true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just seems like sheer willpower, what that we're witnessing from this team. It's just like it shouldn't really make sense, but somehow it does at the same time, because it's just like such a championship mentality, that I was talking about on Twitter about Fallen, especially because like whenever you watch him, no matter what the situation is, no matter if they're fucking overtime, second overtime, they're up against match point, there's just a camera shot on him, and he just looks determined as fuck at any point in the game. It doesn't matter what's going on around him. And it's the same in the
Always
game,
speaking, giving something to
Yeah,
another player, like
exactly.
this is how you should do it. Bam, 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 bam. Like it's no hesitation.
He's just like he's super determined at all times, and you can tell that he's just calm and just he has that mentality, like where like
the armor.
it doesn't matter what he's up against, like he just believes, and that's what we've seen from Imperial for, I mean, ever since they came back together, right? But I mean, this was on display again. And it's just also, I don't know how many of these interviews that came out of the Imperial camp you've seen, but the more and more I see them, I realize this is kind of like their way to go out for the older guys. Because I mean, Fair was talking about how he wanted to quit before the RMRs. It's just like there was a point in his life where it's just like his personal issues and all that stuff just kind of like
Compounded,
compounded, and he was at a point where there was a possibility where he'd quit. We've been hearing that sort of language from Fallen, and I just saw from Dust to US literally just like a few minutes ago. There's a quote: "I'm aiming to stop at the end of next year, but there are times when I want to stop now." And it's like we get these hints that maybe this is it. Maybe this is the last dance, actual last dance. Where they just play in front of their crowd. This is the last time.
It'd be a good way to go.
Exactly, like it could be the go out with a bang type of scenario.
I think it's like what is gonna give you fulfillment of this level again? Like, what are you playing for after
You mean in
this?
life? Oh yeah.
I mean, in terms of playing CS, right?
I mean, it's just that the fact that this major, everything was crowd, right?
Yeah, everything.
So it doesn't matter what happens next, I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's done. Like they've ascended that legendary ending, no matter how it ends.
Yeah, and it's also like he's been Fallen specifically has been just talking about how like it's been amazing to just come back and play with his friends, play with his old mates. Basically, that's all we've been hearing from this camp. And it's kind of obvious. I was a big critic of this being even an idea, because of how in contrast you see the route that Taco and coldzera have went, right? Because they went with the route of, okay, I'm going to surround myself with young talent and just help bring them up, and that's how I can continue my career. This is how I'll do it. And obviously this is the extreme opposite almost. Obviously, since then they've gotten Cello, and that's a bit of a different path than when they had FNX, but it's still kind of like the same core idea, and somehow it's still working.
Yeah, I just
just last thing that I wanted to add, in one of the interviews or a couple, Fallen did say like after winning the first major, this is like the best feeling that he had as a player. Like this was his big. Now, I mean, maybe at the moment he was like affected by it emotionally a bit more. Maybe in a year he's not gonna think the same. But like he did say, like qualifying for the Rio Major was his second favorite achievement.
I don't think that will change.
I don't think it'll change either. Like, think about this full circle of the story, right? Where they came from, the fact that they all are together, they're sleeping in the kitchen of Dead's place on mattresses and shit. They come together, like they slowly adding different pieces. They get to the early majors, they have some impressive games, then they end up winning fucking majors, and they become this legendary team that inspires an entire nation. And now we're seeing all of that hard work coming out in different players and teams, FURIA cropping up, this, that, and the other. And then Brazil being a place, right, that has a lot of passionate fans. Now the fact that on home soil, the biggest event is there, right? I have a little bit of that with Australia, nothing compared to what Fallen has. I have a little bit of the fact that we even get oceanic qualifiers for things is a part of what me and the early Vox boys did. But that's nothing compared to what Fallen has done for his entire nation in terms of how much they love Counter-Strike, right? Like that level is insane. And now he gets the opportunity with what because it's a decade worth. It's longer than that for him. He's been playing Counter-Strike for longer than that, but a decade worth of CSGO, he's been working at exactly this goal, which is now the people in his country get to witness and experience this on home soil and see the best Counter-Strike teams in the world going toe-to-toe, which is something we all love. Like that right there. Even I felt pride in Sydney, and when I was working on the desk, just seeing all of these beautiful fans out to enjoy the same thing as I love as my countrymen, right? I know there's some weird tribalistic fucking bullshit we have going on with like our country and our compatriots, but it's there. Like even just that feeling was like, wow, like look at this, we're having a party, like everyone's here loving the game. And this is on steroids. Like that's what this is about, right? It's the human side. It's the emotional side, and that's what was on display. And that's why that was the N1 moment. And I think that was great. And I'm glad we got to cover that off.
By the way, do you think, like, let's just say, like, as a hypothetical, I would love to see, no matter what happens, like, obviously not if they would end up in a final, but I would love to see the entire team, or like of the old like LG team, kind of walk out with the trophy together.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, no, that'd be nice. I think that would be very fitting, and they're all going to be there now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They all
So,
qualified.
Taco, Cold, all
Yeah,
the.
and I mean,
yeah.
you can't imagine them even leaving. You know, even if they go out early, both of those teams,
They're
I
gonna
mean,
stick around.
they
yeah.
probably are going to stick around just because it's such a fucking massive spectacle, and I imagine they all live really reasonably
I mean,
close anyway.
they are also like best show match contenders.
Oh, yeah.
Just reunited
Sign
the
them
old
Oh fuck!
LJSK.
Oh yeah, you know ESL's going to do that. By the way,
And,
there's no way they don't. If that doesn't,
We're joking around about like who could be on the other side, and then we came up with an ideal combination of. So we'd get Striker, obviously, as the last dance denier.
Okay.
We'd get Ryan as a just designated Brazil hater.
Okay.
The most overrated player of all time, Duncan Torrance Shields quote. He obviously needs to be there after denying Fallen.
Yeah,
as,
that's true.
As the greatest of all time, obviously.
Striker,
and then we
Ryan
had Leaf and Hiko for obvious reasons. And we have the best show match of all time. Just needs to be kind of
They might only be able to use pistols on the other side or something like that to make it fair, you know?
Yeah, I feel like our...
Do we need like a security dispatch
I feel like the Challenger
team
would like cannibalize itself in a way, so I don't think they would be like
wouldn't be too much
an
of a
issue anyway, but that would be kind of funny, not gonna lie.
Okay. All right. Let's jump back into our tier.
Actually, just
this off, guys.
one last thing I just wanted to say. After everything was finishing, first of all, like everyone was crying. Like there were so many Brazilian people there. It was literally just everyone crying. It was insane. And then I run into Vinny. Vinny is crying, but he also looks like he's laughing because he always looks like
he's always smiling.
It's the craziest thing. And Vinny is like, "You better write some nice article about us now."
Got his priorities straight there, huh? He's got their priorities straight.
So, Striker, just so you know, I passed on the message.
You could, write the story of, you know. It
I
could be
actually had an
floaty-
idea today a little bit about something, but I'm not gonna. Yeah,
Don't spoil it.
something, and that's exactly. I don't want to. It's obviously encapsulating a lot of what we talked about, but I had a small thing.
Why the Last Dance was actually a great idea.
Not exactly that.
Well, the proof is in the pudding, right? The proof is in the pudding. All right, let's jump back into the team maker, please, Dimitri. We'll finish this off right now. Okay, so we spoke a little bit about most of the teams here. I think it's just the Brazilian representation, right? The main thing to do. So Whack Imperial in. Well,
I mean, impressed for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's got to be.
Okay, FURIA put them in expected.
Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, I took care of business expected, I guess. I mean,
Yeah,
they
but
weren't.
took care of business because there was only one
Yeah, they
legend
were-
spot available.
Yeah.
It was either them or Liquid, right?
Yeah.
I know
They
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 did.
can't
lose
fault
to
them for
EG.
not getting it.
I know they lost to EG, so actually,
Yeah, I had to keep him as expected. Okay, let's keep him there.
Fair
and then we
enough.
put
Okay.
EG
In
in
Impressed?
Yes.
For sure.
For sure.
It looked. I think Breezy said it well. He said like, we have an identity. We know it feels like a team. Feels like they know what they're doing. Malik was there. The Malik boost was apparent. Now they actually had Valens
Took
and
them all out
Malik
for
there.
coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he took the whole team to join the Juice after they qualified.
not Starbucks.
Well, they're in.
Like maybe he
Yeah.
learned from his previous mistakes.
No,
okay,
it's not
maybe
Starbucks anymore.
coffee is just too much. Let's just do juice.
Well, this is good, you know. EG vindicated, Kassad agitated, Cirque
Yeah.
activated, automatic.
Maui Snake in fantasy relegated. He has like 19 points from 9 games.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation in itself, isn't it? All right, who else we got left here? Complexity and 00 Nation. Where do we want to put the Nation? As expected?
I would say almost impressed. Like I don't know how the stats looked at the end, but I saw like a good coldzera there, and if they have like a good coldzera, then this team is pretty
And a good
dangerous.
Dumao.
He should
Yeah.
stop enjoying life, man.
He stopped enjoying life. I mean, people kind of misunderstand that quote.
Yeah.
I feel like it's obvious
It
what he
just
means.
sounds so funny.
It's not like,
you know,
oh,
how it's
I don't want to
phrased.
live anymore. It's like
Yeah.
I'm not pursuing like the easy passions of life or enjoyments. I'm not going out partying and whatever. I'm just playing CS, and I enjoy playing CS, but I'm not enjoying these, things that people think are, joys.
Enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so impressed.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah,
do impressive.
for sure.
All
Can
right,
do that.
0-0 Nation impressed and complexity.
I'd
I'm
say
actually
SADGE.
impressed.
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
actually
SADGE one.
impressed by
But they're a blood
complexity.
sacrifice. I
Yeah,
know
but-
you're, but we
SADGE.
have to offer them up to the gods.
All right.
SADGE.
As a Swede, I have to comply to the offering of.
No, but we've obviously all been impressed with this level of complexity, right? Compared to the one that existed before Hauzok joined.
Yes, exactly. They found a stability. There's something to grow now. You didn't think they would ever grow with the old lineup, and now I
Yeah,
actually
true.
believe there is a
I
path.
remember.
That they're better, but they didn't qualify. Better than last time, much, but
Yes.
didn't qualify. And last
Yeah,
time they
which
qualified.
sucks because like they probably should have qualified. They didn't qualify. That's gonna suck. I really hope
But
that
they
they
played
don't.
so much better Counter-Strike. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
They played good Counter-Strike,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
that's why this is another team that hopefully doesn't make roster changes. They just prune the leaves a little bit, give it a little bit of watering, maybe add some fertilizer. Don't do anything crazy. You're on the right path. You're in the right direction.
You can
They
put
have
it
a
in
Giga
impressed.
American now.
But we can put it in impressed. Let's put it in impressed. Fuck it.
But I'm
I'd say
sad that they
SADGE-
had to
SADGE
die
because
yeah.
they just had to die for some for Imperial.
Yeah.
You know? Because
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Well,
it's a good way to die.
Okay.
Like,
it is a good way to die.
So they should be. It's an honorable death.
yeah, it's an honorable death.
You died so
They
Imperial.
took
Sacrifice
one for
their
the
own
entire
sword.
CS community.
Okay. All right. Let's
So-
jump into. Let's jump
Man, I was
into.
just okay. I was just the last thing. I was just joking around that even complexity probably felt like, yeah, well, the Imperial just had to be there. I'm
It's like
sorry.
they
well,
deserve it.
whatever.
Anyway, it's like,
Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay, let's jump into the Skinionaire, and then we're done for the evening. Okay, I've
Let's
done
fucking
this
go.
completely out of order here, but we're gonna get into who wants to be a Skinionaire. Devilwalk, you're going to take on the challenge here today, but you will
Alright.
have the lovely sidekick of Striker along for the ride. If you need
Oh.
any assistance, or if you want to just bounce some ideas off him, or if he blurts something out, he'll be here to help you on this journey. Questions done by Prof, reading done by myself. I'm still learning. We're getting the sentences are getting easier. All right, this is who
do
wants
I
to be
get
a
a link
Skinionaire.
like last time, or is it nothing like that?
I
you
can
have
give you
the
the link.
preview?
Yeah, hold up.
Or-
And just full screen the preview.
I
and
give you
you'll
the-
be able to see that.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's the link if you want to look at it.
It's just a little bit bad quality on the Discord here.
I mean, it usually gets better,
Do you have that link?
but it's okay.
Yes.
You can
All right, I'll let
have a
you click your own answers here. All right, Dimitri, question number 1. Which of these coaches qualified for the Rio Major first? Was it A, Zach, B, Zeus, or C, Gary?
Where is
First
Zeus
is in
now?
ever or at this event?
No,
for the
this
Rio
event.
Major.
Oh,
At
the Rio Major. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Which
We're
qualified
talking about
first?
2022 Rio.
Zeus was
Major.
Is
coaching
Zeus
Oplano.
active?
Yeah, he was coaching Oplano.
Done. Okay. Oh, this is a tough one. I did not follow this one.
I know the
I
answer.
mean, I know it's between two of them.
It's actually a pretty straightforward answer.
Look, Zach is with 9Z and Gary's with FURIA. Both went 3-1. I just don't remember which the order that they went at. I think 9Z qualified first. And I see Spurs.
I'm trying to think here. I'm gonna
10
go
seconds.
with Gary.
Oh no. Oh no.
That's all right. Question
God
number 1,
damn it.
incorrect. It's fine. He doesn't win or lose anything here. It's the people at home. So
Gary isn't
Gary
even
technically
coaching.
can't even.
He's-
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, he can't even.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
all right. Question number
I'm like,
2.
this is too easy of a question. Devilwalk. Yeah, hold my beer.
This is going to be a redemption.
Too many
arc. Here we
names on
go.
that
Here we
list.
go. Here we go. How many majors in a row did Nico play? 7, 9, or 11?
Yeah, Prof gave away that answer earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I love it.
All right. Looked at 11. Okay, that one's correct. Question number 3. Who was the highest rated player of RMR EUA? Hampers, Brokey, or Nikodos?
Ooh, this is a. Oh, I'm gonna lock in early answer. Hampus.
He was the second highest, but I could be wrong. Oh, okay.
Boom. Hampers correct. And yeah, he played very well. I spoke to Hampers. He was like, yeah.
I think his stats were the only one I actually checked. So that's why I went with him.
He was like, yeah, it's nice to be able to just go shoot people and not have to call. I was like, yeah, must be nice.
It's pretty cool.
Don't know how that feels. Question number 4. I'm just happy that I made it through. Who said this to HLTV? Exertion, refresh, or art?
Sounds like refresh.
You like
We can still change it. It can be changed. Oh, wait, it already is answered.
No, yeah, I go Insta.
All right, fine. This is some quick. This is like speed Skinionaire. Well, the answer was art because I think the question was framed about them not getting the legend spot.
Yeah.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yep.
I just didn't. I'm just happy I made it through. It didn't fit for art,
Right?
for me.
It's a trick question.
It's a tricky one.
We're all
There
just
you go.
happy to be here right now.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
feeling
true.
pretty. Thank you. All right, question number 5. Which of these players will be playing their first major in Rio? Spinks, Flames,
What do you mean
or
first
torzsi? The first major ever.
first major?
Mhm.
Must be torzsi, right? Oh, Flames. Wait,
I think Prof fucked up this one.
what? I'm confused.
Why would he fuck up?
I'm pretty sure I didn't.
I'm sure there's one name who.
2 of them played a major before, at least one, and one didn't.
This is the first time OG.
Okay, locking in Flames. Correct answer is Flames. So, but torzsi hadn't played a
torzsi
major.
didn't
torzsi
make
hadn't
it
played
to
a major either.
Antwerp, yeah.
Yeah,
Then what?
They barely didn't make it.
they didn't make it. Now, Shankista, like this. I'm going to do it. Are you still here, Shankista? If you're still here, then, well, you won the skin. Is he here? Hello. Our people will reach out to your people and we'll get you the $7.50 skin from Bitskins. That's who wants to be a Skinionaire. And that's us done for the evening. So we got that one done. We got that one dusted. Thank you, Devilwalk, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What's going on at the moment? Where do people need to find you? What do they need to know about Devilwalk in the near future?
Well, they need to know I'm looking for a job still, and I'm ready to work, motivated. I've been, I took the summer off a little bit, but starting to feel really motivated, especially with all these great Counter-Strike games coming back. You gain a lot of motivation just watching them and trying to figure out how people play and what they do good, and try to learn some more Counter-Strike. So yeah.
What team could use your services
Coaching
right now?
or analyst?
I was gonna say, yeah.
I can. I'm willing to do both. Obviously, coaching is my preferred choice, but I would even be open to a short-term hire for the major. Even
Greyhound should hire you for the major.
yeah, why not?
There's one suggestion. I probably could have come up with a bunch more, but
How about some broadcast work? I mean,
I am
while you're
definitely
bored.
open. I do have something coming up in this
Ooh.
year for broadcasting, so
Alright,
we'll see
let's
what
go.
that ends up being.
okay, cool. All right. Well, we'll keep the Devilwalk radar operational to see where you end up next. But thank you again for joining us. Been a pleasurable conversation here this evening. Prof from Rio, he needs to get down there and check on
It's a long.
conditions.
How
Well,
many
looking at
steps was that
traffic-
ladder up there?
Traffic's actually looking much better now. The weather is still great. It is 4 p.m. here in Rio, but the sun is shining. The beaches are amazing. The sea is perfect, 24 degrees, enjoyable. Have a nice day.
I've booked in my Brazilian butt lift for when I arrive. So I'm going to be getting that one sorted. You guys are going to be seeing me walking around with a big old tush. But this has been the show done and dusted for another evening. We're going to thank the sponsors, Xtrfy, Bitskins, and of course, N1Bet. Gamble responsibly. Good night.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their fourth generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets, guaranteed.
Stuck ranking up? Lost the motivation to grind? Bored of clicking heads on aim maps? Get some color into your game. Bitskins.com. Buying and selling skins made easy. Tons of payment methods and instant cash outs. Just choose your dream skins, select your preferred payment method, and start grinding again. If you want to play like the pros, you gotta look like the pros.
N1 Bet. Your bet, your game.